Hello. Welcome to MiniDisc. It's a Game Club podcast from minimap.com.au, a website about video games. My name is Jeremy. Joining me, as always, is Kerry Palmer.
Just before we started the show, Jeremy, you described this music as being like the rain.
It's like the rain. It just happens. You just can't describe it.
It just happens.
You just can't figure it out. And joining us today, a very special guest, Alex. Hello, Alex.
Hello. How are you
Hello.
Welcome.
What's going on?
Welcome to the show. Welcome to being on something that we've made. Thank you for being on. It's very much appreciated. You are often in the Twitch chat. You are in our Discord. How are you?
Doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Glad to be here in the studio. Such a nice space you've got here.
Yeah, in the studio
lovely.
that is the OBS scene.
Yeah, it's beautiful, Jeremy. These walls you've put together. Oh,
Yeah.
magnificent. Kerry, you should be very proud.
I am. I just wanted to say, as you have been doing for consecutive months at this point, Jeremy, what an excellent job of the branding and the graphics and the cutting of the music. This new version of an old show looks fantastic. I'm very excited to be restarting the Game Club in this format.
Yeah, for those who've been around for a while, which I like, if you are like, holy shit, I doubt it. But like, this show used to be called the Game Spoilers Podcast, which was the very first show that we ever did, and like it's like in between, you know, in between sleeps, it needed a new coat of paint, it needed a new name, needed a new logo, and you know, a different format. But I'll get to all that a little bit later. First of all, this is the MiniDisc podcast. It is a bi-monthly, or as I like to say, fortmonthly podcast where myself, Kerry, and a very special guest all play a game and do a big old deep dive on the game to find out what works and what doesn't. The MiniDisc podcast is a bonus show of the MiniMapCast, our weekly game show, and lives inside of the MiniMapCast feed. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear some more, make sure to give the most recent episode of the MiniMapCast a try. You can also easily find that and all other MiniDisc episodes by simply searching for MiniDisc in the feed that you're already in. If you like what you're hearing, make sure you tell your friends and give the show a positive rating wherever you listen to your podcast. It makes a huge difference and only takes a few seconds. If you want to get notified every time a new episode is released, make sure to follow us on social media. We are at MiniMapAU on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch, where you can catch us every Monday night at 6:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time for the live recording of the MiniMapCast. Also wanted to say a very big thank you to Joshua Morse for letting us use the song Diet Fresh as the music for MiniDisc. You can listen to more of their stuff at joshuamorse.bandcamp.com. And finally, Minimap is completely independent and funded almost entirely out of our own pockets. To help keep help keep the mics and lights on, you can support us by becoming one of our patrons. For only $5 a month, you can get 24 hours of early access for all episodes of the MiniMapCast and some extra bonus features we are planning on cooking up. Head on over to patreon.com/MiniMapAU to help us out. And remember, it is cheaper than a latte with oat milk.
Is that what it's like to just read the scripts? That's great.
That was impressive.
Thank you.
I kind of like keep the likes on.
Keep the
Yeah,
lights on.
I like that too. I was like, oh, that is not irrelevant.
The lights, the mics, and the
Very much.
likes on.
Keep the likes on. Validate me, please.
Yeah, please. Yeah. This episode, we have all played and are now going to talk about a game called The Artful Escape.
Uh-huh.
Alex, you chose this game.
Did.
Before we jump all the way in, was there a reason why you chose this game? Was this in the list that I sent you, or had you already had this game in mind, or was there a reason this one was drawn to you, or you were drawn to it?
Being honest, like I originally got this game off Game Pass when it came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I played the first little section. Like, I don't even think I got out of the small town.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, this is really cool, but I've also got something else I got to do, so I stopped playing it. And I just never jumped back into it.
Mm.
I don't know. There was no reason why. I think it was just there was other stuff that was more bright that I was sort of pulled towards. I probably had a game to review, so I had to put it to the side.
Yeah.
And then it's just been on my to be played list since it came out, and that just keeps growing, as both of you probably know.
Oh God.
Just looking at it now, like fuck.
Yeah.
Can I swear here? Shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You,
Yes.
you can swear. It's all
Yes,
good.
Yes, you can
Go
swear.
for it.
Cool. Good start.
No advertisers to offend here. Don't
Yeah.
worry.
All right. Yeah, get the bleep button ready.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think I saw it pop up in another one of the end of year lists or something, and it kind of twigged in my brain again, like, oh, that game.
Yeah.
I've seen bits of that game. I need to like go towards that game again. And then yeah, Jeremy sent for the list, and it was on the list, I'm pretty sure. And then I think that's
Yeah.
why my brain's like, oh, ooh, like, yeah. So
I'm glad you mentioned that it was on Game Pass, because Jeremy and I both were like, that's on Game Pass, right? And looked for it, couldn't find it. But it's on PlayStation Plus. So that's where I played it this go around.
yeah, I thought it was on Game Pass, and then I went to go.
It definitely used to be. It definitely used to be on Game Pass. Yeah, like there was so many people who I spoke to this game about, and they were like, "That's on Game Pass, right?" I'm like, "It's not," but I know why you think it is. And it's 'cause it definitely. I remember the giant neon banner like on the homepage of Game Pass at least once.
Yeah, I literally have proof that it was on Game Pass because I downloaded it.
There you go.
And then when I went to play it, it's like, you don't have the license for this. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Game Pass.
Yeah.
And then I went over to Game Pass, and it's like, oh no, it's not. Oh, okay, I'll grab it. It's fine. But yeah. So,
Cool. So let's jump into just a quick recap of the game. Kerry, you want to give us a 1 minute?
You want okay, you want it in 1 minute? I'll give you the whole story in 1 minute.
Yeah.
All right, okay, no worries. I'm looking at my timer. 7:05. I'm going to start at 7:10. Everyone, you ready? Okay. And so you play as Francis Vendetti, who's this like kid who's got a really popular uncle who's basically Bob Dylan, but isn't Bob Dylan. And he lives in this town, and he's going to play this show, and everyone wants him to play like his uncle, but he doesn't want to, but he doesn't know that yet. And then he goes to bed one night, and he wakes up, and he's like wailing guitar, and there's an alien that comes down and says, "You need to play sci-fi space guitar for us in space." And so you go to space, and you meet Lightman, played by Carl Weathers, which is strange. And then you do a show on this planet, and it's amazing. And then you come back to the spaceship and talk to people, and you go to the other planets, and it's amazing. And the other planets, and Francis accepts himself as the way he wants to be, and goes back to his hometown and plays a rock concert, and the end.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You did say
I
Ramses.
was taking too long with each planet. I was like, oh, I gotta go.
You did say Ramses at the beginning, which is a very funny name.
Did I?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I tried to say the F at least.
Yeah, that is the gist of it. It's worth mentioning. The Artful Escape is made by Beethoven and Dinosaur, which is a good name for a studio. They
This is their first game. No?
It is their first game, and they're also a band. So it's I think that, well, at least I think they're also a band. Every time I go to look at them, they have like images of them like as bands. So like I can't tell exactly how hair metal-y they actually are.
Yeah.
But the lead designer, I need to shout out just his name.
Please. I've written this down too.
Yeah, the lead designer of the game is one Johnny Galvatron, which I don't care if that's his real name or not. That is such a cool name. He was in a band called the Galvatrons or like an 80s inspired band called the Galvatrons. Yeah. But yeah, and I'm looking that there's a well-played article here from a couple years ago from Zach Johnson, who is quoting Johnny Galvatron to say, "I really dig Beethoven and I really dig dinosaurs," which is, I'm assuming, where the name of the studio came from.
I honestly hope that their like daily like meeting stand-ups are just them like having a little guitar session, just like, oh,
right?
What are you doing today? Like,
yeah.
It brings a whole new meaning to the term game jam.
Yeah.
So let's just jump right into it, I guess. The beginning of the game, the opening of the game is Francis on a cliff, like on like in a park, like at the edge of a cliff, looking out over the city of Calypso, in Colorado while he's trying to feel out like folk songs that he simply can't. Right. And there's what was the term? It was press square to write a song about a lonely miner or something.
Yeah.
He's struggling at the beginning to feel music that he really likes.
And he's got a show tomorrow.
He's the nephew of I think in my notes I wrote down home brand Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Because this guy is so Bob Dylan. Okay, the beginning of the game is very tame. It is you walking around the town. It is Francis and his thoughts and meeting Violetta for the first time. Did anyone know how far this game was going to go into the psychedelic? How was everyone's expectations for what this game was going to sort of be? Alex?
I knew a little bit,
yeah,
but not to the extent of like flying through the cosmos and jumping on and fruit salad people. That was a lot.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm glad I wasn't like someone who like participates in recreational drugs for this, because this would be a lot. Like, maybe that's the whole like point of the experience, is to kind of simulate that. But yeah, it was cool. Like, it was interesting how it like takes off out of the town as well. Like, yeah.
Kerry, did you have any idea, any inclination?
Yeah, I saw a trailer once, and that just like lodged in there.
Right.
It was never to leave my brain that this was a spacefaring, colorful, like planet hopping adventure. I knew that much, seeing like different planets moving from the left towards the right while playing guitar.
Right.
Like that is what I knew of this game.
Yeah, right. I think as I got further in the game, I realized I had actually seen more of this than I realized. Like not as in like I'd watched a playthrough or anything, but I had just seen footage. Right, I had seen the colors. Yeah. I had seen the jumping with the guitar to do long jumps. But I had kind of forgotten a little bit. So the beginning of the game, I'm like, oh, like it's, and so I took like a lot of notes about the town, which ended up being almost nothing, right? Like I have so many notes on the Bob Dylan
prologue.
Yeah, on the prologue, on the Bob Dylan character. I also have a note here saying so far the most accurate thing about this game is the main character being related, like the main character wanting to be a musician, getting his first concert. The whole town shows up because he's related to another musician. Nepotism in the music industry is everywhere, and it was very funny to see them play off of that as well.
Yeah. It was really funny in that town, because I was like, this is the amount of like revering that people are doing for this character who is dead. For this Bob Dylan character it's very intense right now. Why is everyone talking about it? And it's playing on the speakers. It's all over town. I'm like, this is very much. And then like 10 minutes into the town, it's like, oh, we're part of the Johnson Vendetti Festival right now. It's the second day of a 3-day Johnson Vendetti Festival. I'm like, okay, all right, it's a little less strange. It's what the point of the place is right now. It's
this
not.
Whole town is just obsessed with him. He's just Francis Vendetti is the one.
from 9 till 5 every day, those speakers are just playing Vendetti all day, every day.
And like I want to say as well, I reckon that's probably not the most uncommon thing in terms of, you know, when there's a small town and there's a big name from that small town, like that, like it part of the town's identity becomes that this person is from here.
Totally. Especially a town, or rather, especially a name that big.
Sure. Yeah. And then so like on the cliff overlooking the town, this is when we meet Violetta, who is wearing like already a space outfit, which is like I looked at when like that's a cool fucking outfit.
The purple color, yeah.
Yeah, like there's like wires hanging off it, and there's like little modules like on her shoulders and stuff.
It's got like, what was the game glove, the Nintendo glove, like the power glove? It's got like power glove wires and buttons on the wrist and shoulders. Yeah.
And then she enlists you to move over to another part of the park where she wants you to do basically a sound check, for what is going to be the after party Sorry, there's a cat climbing up my chair. For what is going to be the after party for the concert, that Francis is performing in. What was our initial impressions of Violetta?
This section, this whole like Violetta comes down and says Lightman and is from space and like comes down for why we don't know and then leaves. Like I found confusing at the time and still found it confusing even at the end. Like I still have no idea why she went there and did that. And it was like, this is a strange moment.
It's kind of a bit like when you first get introduced to her, it's kind of a bit like you're just thrown together. And
yeah.
She's sort of like very much like, I'll commit crimes for you, Purple Lady. Tell me what to do. But like, it's
I have that in my notes.
Like I literally do too. But like, it's like in the dialogue for her, it was very much just like, who are you? What's the crime? Okay, I'll do it. Like it was very like, yeah.
Yeah, the exact wording is, I'm going to commit a crime, and then just dope. Like I was like, oh yeah, like I already kind of feel the vibe of this game is gonna be my jam.
And I think like for Francis, I kind of get that whole like, I want to be doing anything else right now aside from what I'm actually meant to be doing. So like, hey, you're kind of cool. You're sure that sounds interesting, and I won't have to do what I'm doing right now. Like I kind of got that, but also it was pretty serious and strange and weird.
Yeah.
So
I got that just by him wearing the glasses the whole time, just with the like,
well,
like in every single iteration of that costume, there's just the glasses. You don't see his eyes.
That's what I was thinking. But everybody in the game wears glasses.
You don't see anyone's eyes unless they're the 5 button array.
I didn't pick up on that.
yeah. Every single person is wearing glasses, aside from Zom.
Yes,
the
but
alien.
Zom's eyes are in the 5 button array.
Are they in that as well?
Yeah, because I think he's the first time you use that where the lights light up.
Right, okay.
I'm very excited to talk about the 5 button.
Yes. So yeah, from the top of the cliff, you then head back down to the town. This is when we get the title sequence, and like the opening credits. All of my notes in this segment are just Lena Headey, Jason Schwartzman, Mark Strong, Carl Weathers.
Johnny Galvatron.
Yeah, and then Johnny. That was the first moment I saw. I looked upon the name Johnny Galvatron.
Yeah, that credit sequence was wild.
So nice seeing Lena Headey like play a giant fruit salad lady. Like
right. Yes. Yeah, and then like from that point on, you meet some members of the town. They become. Like they don't really become really any characters. They are just there to basically set dress Francis's past. They don't really have any meaningful moments. There is no moments shared between Francis and these characters. They are there to inform you of the kind of town that Francis is from and the kind of past that he's running from, but also the pressure that is being put on him as well. Where we meet the old lady who was obviously in love with Bob Dylan. There's the like I cannot remember his name. It's the Johnson Vendetti. Bob Dylan. And the owner of the club that Francis is going to be playing at, and some other people as well who are just kind of just town locals.
What was the name of the fake ska band? They had it was called like Skimp or something
like that. Yeah. I
forgot it because like that was like the first day, and then it took me a few days before I came back to it the second day, and it was like that was so far in the past at that point I totally forgot.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, and it gets to the end, and like Francis walks past them right at the end, and I'm like, oh yeah, the Scamp band or whatever they are.
And there's that. Sorry.
What did you guys think of the house? The like the house he lives in up the top, like going up into the attic.
Oh, it's so nice. It's
I wanted
it was
more
the
of
nicest
that.
place in town.
Yeah, I was hoping there was gonna be more like kind of exploring those little houses and like that, but then obviously gets shot into the cosmos. So
yeah,
which is its own reward. But yeah,
it was such an interesting like you start off in that nature park, which is gorgeous. Like I love the environments. But then you go into the town, And it's so strange. It's such a strange way to build a town, like in rings around the top of a mountain. And like it plays well for the level, right? Because you go around the lower level and then you go up and like, but it's like a city. It's like a city you read in a fantasy novel. You know, it's like a dwarven fortress.
Yeah, it's like Minas Tirith from Lord of the Rings, which
Yeah,
is like
exactly.
in the side of the mountain.
But it's actually just a sleepy 70s town obsessed with Bob Dylan.
Yeah, yes.
But I loved the town here as well because they had so many. That it was the most calm part of the game, like setting wise.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of personality in the names for things like the Scamp Band. But also, I've got written down here one of the strange ones. It was Grunb and Sons.
Yes. No,
GRUNB. And their specialty was banking, loaning, and foreclosing.
I'm gonna correct you on that. It's actually Grunb and Sons and Sons.
Grump and Sons.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll write that in there.
Yeah.
And there were so many little parts of that, like where every sign was just like a little bit off. It was just a bit of a thing there for you to laugh at because you kind of saw it once and then never again. But it was just interesting seeing them sprinkle in personality into this game, even when this was meant to be the bland baseline.
It was quite actually cool to see them like in that town, like move away from the realism.
Yeah.
Just sort of like push on this town that's just like a big kind of pyramid.
Yeah, and having like that town, there was a weird level of like I think this town is going through a transition of like things are moving away from the quiet folksy nature of it all, and there was a level of a lot of the smaller like when you interact with the woman who's running the bookshop, right?
Yeah,
and she lets you pick one of the books because she's moving to like the lower level or something. On that,
I thought she was moving away from the town.
Oh yeah, maybe like actually that does sound more correct. Like she was moving away and she was having a closing down sale. Or a lot of the buildings nearby were a lot more like higher economic class shops, and there was like there was one I saw which was there was a cafe cliche, which I thought was quite funny. But also there was one called Cellar Guards, which were the experts in disappearing completely. I don't know what that shop is, but like there was like I think that there is a funny like this town is going through some economic shift.
It's definitely like some commentary there on progress, I guess.
Yeah.
With them saying like they're moving to another town because the business is better, it's more sustainable. Which is sort of like I guess leaving this town a little bit like what's going to be left when the personality goes, because if you're going to call the personality a bookshop and like records and like that sort of thing.
I went to school in an area of Melbourne that's quite well known for being in the 60s and 70s a place where a bunch of hippies went to live, and it's like an artist's area, like it's the place you went when you went to be an artist and live. But it's, you know, like the 60s and 70s, which was when I was not alive. When I was alive and I was there, it became a place, and it became even more evident that it was a place that was quite affluent because the people who stayed there had stayed there for years and they'd sort of built up this wealth. And so when I was there, it was just full of well-off families who could afford it and next to no one else. And so I feel like that plays into that kind of vibe that you're saying, Jeremy, where like if the stores are closing down because they're either not getting enough of a market, or like they're not charging enough because they're not high tier enough, like prestige enough.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting sort of look into that.
Yeah.
And they never explicitly say that this is the past, but it's clear that like it feels like a very retro setting. I didn't see any phones. I didn't see any, the TV was all like from the 70s, like the only one that I saw. Like I feel like that's kind of the setting here.
Yeah. I didn't notice any. Yeah, there wasn't enough technology, I think, to date it in any meaningful way. Because like part of me, someone could have pulled out a phone and I would have went, okay, like they're on the phone. But like that's still like depending on the way that phone looked, it could have worked with those big TVs that they had in their houses as well. But yeah, so then you go into the house itself and you stop by your mother and have a quick chat. And I think I think at this point is this when he says he wants to reinvent himself?
Yeah, like he sees the book. He sees the books first, and they're all about every book. I wrote it here. Every book was someone pretending to be someone else.
Yeah.
So no matter which one you pick, it starts the inspiration for him to be like, what if I could be someone else? And so he's talking with his mother, and she says things, and he like spaces out, and they do those hard cuts back to reality, like which were pretty funny and like a good moment. And he's like, I think I'm not even going to be here tomorrow. He's like completely off with it at that point.
I did get a quote from him at this point, which he says, "I've decided to create the most elaborate stage persona the world has ever seen."
Yeah,
which I thought was quite funny.
It's quite fascinating at that point because he's kind of still at that like precipice of being like I want to be something, but I'm also like behind this big figurehead in front of him, and he's still kind of like unsure about how to push past that. Because he doesn't want to be a disappointment either. Like he wants to be, but he also doesn't want to be like, oh, his kid's shit. Like,
yeah, like the idea that Johnson Vendetti's nephew doesn't go up on stage the next day hasn't occurred to him at all. Like it's an impossibility that could occur. And
then in his room, you can see the kind of stuff that he's into, which is like science fiction movies and books and robots and like bunch of nerd shit. Stuff that I've had in my room for a lot of my life. And also like his record player, which you can explore around his room. Like the only thing I really had to say about his room is like 16-year-old me would have fucking loved his room. And also he's got a 2001 poster on his wall, which I'm like, yeah, fair. It's good.
I thought you'd like that.
Yeah. A thing about the house, which I am wondering if anyone else picked it up. The 5-symbol thing that we'll get to, the 5 symbols of the music. The room that he lives in, at the top of the thing, the windows on that room, on the outside of the house, which you can only see from one tiny section of the map, the windows into his room are shaped in that way.
Right, that's funny.
Because I looked at that, and because I noticed there was a funny shape, and the way the camera was pulling in and out at this point, as you approach the house, it pulls out enough to give you a good look at the house, then pulls in almost immediately. And I found the sweet spot where it pulled out enough that I could see the windows. And I was like, that's a funny shape for a window. And my brain went, okay, let's continue on. And then, my brain kept that in. And then the moment you see it, when you go outside and you have the encounter with the third kind, it was I was like, oh, okay, like there's something happening here with the symbol. And
I'm glad you noticed that. I didn't recall that personally.
That's really fucking cool.
But it makes me it kind of, there was something that happened as soon as this happened for me in this scene where it's like, okay, Francis went to bed and then he woke up. Did he ever actually wake up, or is this all a dream, right? And so like, and part of my pardon?
But time progresses.
But maybe he's just in his room strapping together his outfit the whole time in his head, and it's open ended by the end anyway, which I'd like.
Yes,
it could very easily have actually happened or not have happened, and he missed the show and he turned up for the after party with his new persona that he spent all night and all day creating the backstory for in his head. And maybe he was inspired by his strange window pattern on the roof, right? And maybe he was inspired by this person and that, and someone said Lightman, so he thought of it, and it was a perfect place for this one building to suddenly have something that was in it that wasn't there before, and like all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, as soon as he went to sleep and woke up again, I'm like, is this all a metaphor? Is this all allegory? Is this all a dream? I don't know. Well, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
There's some legs there. Like, you could take it either way because it is left pretty open-ended. But I find it interesting when you get like back to like Violetta. Spoilers for the end of the game, obviously. But like jumping ahead. But like how they kind of end things there. That kind of was what put me towards like maybe this is all just him having a little vision quest in his bedroom with his sewing machine and some glitter.
Yeah, and
We've all
like,
been there.
and the very end shot of the car then existing after all the story has ended and the car flies away, like, you know, like that's like a cheeky like, oh, what is it real or not? And like, and yeah,
it's
and
like the topper in Inception.
yeah, and like the whole point of this story is that yeah, it can be transplanted into the real world, and like so it fits and doesn't affect the real world in any meaningful way as well. Like it is able to be put in and then, excuse me, and then cut out without it messing anything up. Which I thought was done quite well. Like, you know, yeah, like you said, utilizing the abandoned building in the town and stuff as well. I thought was a really good addition.
Yeah, and it was fun. Like either way, like thinking that along the way was like, oh, I don't know, and like even with that sort of perspective in mind, going through the story, it was like, oh, maybe this is him just justifying a Ziggy Stardust persona, like, but like that's kind of cool. It's cool getting to play the linear narrative that he's constructing, if that's the case.
Yeah,
as the game, like that's really cool.
Yes.
And if we decide it's real, then that's also cool.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, totally right. Like, and the crux of it being like, you know, like him going to find himself on this journey of self-discovery is like, yeah, like, you know what, like it doesn't fucking matter. Like it's real to him, and that's all that is all that matters, really.
Yeah, 100%. It's I like that they don't try to like make you pick. It's just what you take is what you take. It almost at times seemed to me like maybe this is like the story he's telling his like fans later on, where like this happened and that happened and like how he built himself, which again I'm 100% all right with. Like it's a fun ride. Like
which is hilarious because, again, jumping ahead, the moment that you have to start creating your own, like because you decide where your like your persona's backstory is from again inside of the game. It has that double hit of he is rehearsing a story that he has told people that hasn't happened, even though he's currently also in the story that also has potentially not happened. Which is allows him to believe it even more. Which is so good. This game's good. I like this game. Well, that's what we usually do at the beginning of the thing is we say like, how much do we like this game? I really liked this game.
Yeah. How about you, Alex? What did you land on it?
I liked it. I think again wasn't 100% sure what I was getting myself into, but I don't think that was a bad thing. That kind of like being along for the ride of this game in particular, I think is not a bad thing.
Totally,
like,
yeah.
Pick it up and jump in.
I think I would have been more. I had a good idea of what it was because I listened to Kind of Funny a lot, and Tim from there raved about this game when it came out in 2021. Weird way to say that. It's not how we say those dates at the moment. And so I had a good idea of what it was with the sort of. I knew it wasn't particularly mechanically complex. I knew it was just sort of like a musical adventure. If someone had told me, oh, you get to play your own guitar and you really feel like you're part of the music, and I'd had that in my head and I got to this game, I think I would have been a bit disappointed with how that was implemented. Just because at the end of the day, there had to be some limitation for everyone to be able to do it, right? It had to be accessible for everyone and not be like a guitar simulator. But at the end of the day, I really liked it. I accepted it on its terms, which I think this game needs you to do. I think without that, you'd struggle. But it's such a feast for the eyes and the ears. I really enjoyed it. And playing it with Sam as well. Sam loved it.
Yeah, I think the thing that would continuously throw me was just how pretty all of the settings and the set pieces were, which we haven't even got to yet in our thing because the prologue, while like the prologue is probably the slowest point in the game, like, and it feels like it takes a lot longer than what it actually does. And I think because once you get into the game, it goes like a mile a minute for the entire time. But like even like, you know, in the woods and in the town and stuff, like it's such a pretty game. The art is so well put together, the light coming through the trees and like just like the quality of texture and the fun depth of field on the camera for when things are really far away.
Yep.
There was a game that came out in 2014 which had a similar kind of art style to it. It wasn't nearly as technically high definition as this. I think
While
it was
you're
called,
trying to find it, did anyone else have the thought, because this whole game has the characters on their side the whole time, and when you turn, it's just like the character goes to the other side. And funny thing I noticed was like the guitar like basically goes upside down when you turn around, and then like goes the other way, which is like impossible. But anyway, was anyone else ever reminded of Angela Anaconda, the like ABC like cartoon, which was basically just like the same thing, like 2D, like whenever you're looking at their feet, it's like their 2 feet are on the side facing the same way. And the design of that one kind of looks like a collage, like they cut out pictures of people and put them on the thing, and that's how they animated them. So they were all like just at the joints and a bit loosey-goosey. This had a very similar vibe to me of that.
It's quite cool, like the foreground, background, like midground, how they did that. Because it's like the whole thing pushes together into an image, but having the characters on that one little foreground, like center part, like really, it feels nice. I don't know how to like put words to it properly because I'm not an artist.
Yeah,
But,
right.
like,
yeah.
It's easy to like look at that like plain all as a flat piece. Like
Yeah, 100%.
The game that it reminded me of is called Stick It to the Man, which is a fun science fiction game about like mind control. It is again like all the characters are 2D. The world is on like on a single plane, but like the 3D world itself is quite deep. Even though you can't actually explore it. Kerry, you just had an audible reaction, I think, to Stick It to the Man.
I pulled up the Steam page and the first trailer started playing, and it says Zoink Presents.
Yeah, yes.
Made me laugh.
And at this point, there's a knock at the door in the middle of the night. Like you put on a record before you go to bed to sort of chill out. Knock at the door. It's an alien, voiced by Jason Schwartzman. And you then sort of get told how to play the guitar. What did we make of Zom, the alien by Jason Schwartzman?
I'm looking up who Jason Schwartzman is.
I think that was when it got weird for me.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, am I gonna get my brain sucked out? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
I liked that section a lot because it was the first time you get the guitar to just play, but also it's the first time where the environment reacts to you as you play the guitar, where all the lights turn on as you're playing, and I really enjoyed that.
How good was it, like running through the different parts and then like strumming the guitar just to see shit in the background?
Yeah.
Like, the lights come alive, the plants open up.
It was to the point I liked it so much. I kind of was just always playing if I could.
Yeah, same. I think I held down square to shred for the entirety of the game.
Yeah.
It seemed like they were encouraging you to do that just to keep that song like going.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so but in the town when this first happens, Francis says, "How did you organize this to Zom?" Or maybe that's one of the questions that you can ask. And I read that and I had to write it down because it was so funny to me that you meet an alien for the first time and you're like, how did you organize all these lights?
Yeah, the lining up the entire town was delightful, but also just like it felt so immediately rewarding lighting up any section of the town, and it honestly reminded me of Power Wash Simulator. Because I was hitting every single one to make the town correct and light it up in a way that was just so good and so
don't miss a spot.
Yeah, so rewarding in it was giving me the good brain chemicals. I'll put it that way.
Where's that game, Power Decorator Simulator, where you're just like spraying like fairy lights all over like buildings,
while it's also a guitar that you are shredding the
exactly
the entire time. Yeah,
or a guitar.
Yes. Yeah, and then you head on over to the what's the name of the building again? The abandoned building?
It's Lightman's, isn't it?
Lightman's. Oh yeah, it is just called Lightman's. Yeah, like, and you walk in and it's like a train terminal, or like a just transport terminal, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You meet Lightman, Carl Weathers, just so cool.
So cool.
So
That was a good casting.
such a good fucking casting.
He almost had a line that was like, "Baby, you get a stew going," and it wasn't quite it, but
why is that your Carl Weathers go to every single time you and I talk about Carl Weathers?
because I've watched a lot of Arrested Development.
Is it happen a lot in that show, or does he say it once?
Nah.
Just one of those things that you
Well, he says it like 4 times in the one episode.
Right, okay. Yeah, you then sign a contract via saying via verbal communication. It's very long, and it talks about owning of music rights and stuff, which is all very funny music producing, like, terms of like whatever you make you don't own sort of thing. And then the exact moment that you leave the building, I don't exactly remember. What happens immediately after this?
You go to the Cosmic Extraordinary, and it's everyone's own individual path, and it's that like ribbon through the nebula.
That's right, and that's the first time you really see what the game is like to play. You are
and
running.
It's how you get to the Cosmic Lung the first time.
That's right. When I first played this section with all of the stunning visuals, I was worried that they were going to put out the best part of the game right then and there, and I was going to be left with the rest of the game going, "Oh, I wish it was as good as this part." That was quickly put to bed, and turns out this was just the beginning of a really awesome looking game from the start to finish.
Yeah, totally. And it was like that. I don't know how I felt about this section, just because I think I was thinking too much about the mechanics of like, oh, it's different for everybody, but also we're all here.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know that. I don't know. That just put me off a bit, I guess. But this is just a nitpick.
Alex, did you have any thoughts about the first time you can really run and shred at the same time?
I had a similar thing where I was kind of, it felt really good, and like you just wanted to like keep doing it. It was kind of like the similar thing you said before about like holding the. For me, it was the X button down.
Oh right. Yep.
Xbox. But like holding it down, but also just feeling out how that interacts into the world.
Yeah.
I think it was almost one of those things where I wish there was a bit more kind of like decision there with like different sounds you could play. Like maybe if you played a different sound, it would be a different color, or like.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, I think the actual movement with the guitar, like there were two things that I think I did want more from, and yeah, you're right. Like that was one of them. Even if it was like moving the other stick to increase or decrease the pitch, like a whammy bar.
Oh yeah, because that right stick is doing nothing.
Yeah.
Although I suppose you can't hold square and use the right stick. But.
Yeah, I suppose. But
also those triggers are doing nothing.
Well, yeah, like that's the thing, right? There was a lot of buttons that I think could have been used. Similarly, which we'll get to like the actual music playing later. But the other thing that I wanted was when you grab a ledge, you stop playing.
Yeah.
And that was the most like, no, just like, yeah, right. It was just like really great music, and then someone stops and then starts again. And I'm like, oh, just give it to me. Just don't have ledges. Let me jump or miss. Like, just let me keep going.
Ledges were a funny inclusion, actually. Like, because when it first taught me how to use ledges, I was like, oh, is this going to be a real thing throughout this game?
Yeah, like a platformer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was mostly just there just for the start, like where that, like, oh, we teach you to jump because there's a ledge. Jump. I don't know.
I guess it was strange. But yeah, the moment you enter this area, you then gain the double jump.
Yes, that's right. When it all becomes a bit more magical,
and you do lose it the moment.
Double jump.
Yeah, totally right.
Losing it was brutal.
And that
Just
was one of the
constantly
things.
pressing double jump to do the strum in the air, and it just was not happening.
And that was one of the things where I noticed, like, oh, like that did put me more in the camp of like none of this was actually real sort of thing, because mechanically the game actually reverted back to what it was, which I did think was interesting.
Yeah, no, that is interesting. And like I did love that double jump the triple jump, where if you start the strum in midair, then you do that big flourish and you get a bit more distance.
Extra glide kind of thing.
Yeah. And I found myself doing that fairly frequently, even when I didn't have to, because it was one of those ways to introduce intentionality in the music playing.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have that many options. It was either always playing sliding down a hill with circle or B, like if you have the opportunity, or you can do the jump strum. And it's like those were kind of your only other ways to play, and the only other thing you could do was like when you decided to stop playing. But I wrote down that it was kind of it was annoying me. I wrote this down here. It feels a bit like there's no one good place to stop a riff. Like you can't like end a phrase and have that be really satisfying, because the whole thing is meant to loop and keep going and stop, and meant to be able to come in at any point and drop out at any point. And so while it meant that it was nice while it was happening, I couldn't start one and then be like, oh yeah, I really hit that beat, and finish one and be like, oh yeah, I really finished that. And so yeah, that was another thing that led to me just like holding it, because like it wasn't satisfying to start or stop.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. There was a part later on where there was a very long song that was playing in one of those sections, and I was listening to the music and I timed it by getting to the end at the moment that I wanted to.
Yeah.
And instead of allowing the note to play out, it just hard cut, and I was like, oh, I wanted that to feel good.
Yeah, and it's hard. I don't know how you do that really without making it more complex and then far less accessible.
Yeah.
I think for a game this length, it works. It's fine. But if the game was longer, you'd start to notice it so much more. Like you'd want to get those perfect little note finishes. You'd want a little bit of change in your guitar, which the game is longer as well. You'd hope that there's a bit more like music diversity there with the sound, like maybe another instrument. I don't know, like
that's a really good point, that like that it lasts as long as it can without outstaying its welcome.
Yeah, I was thinking if like, because there's 3 planets you go to for the most part. If there was a fourth, I would have like okay, like something needs to like change up here. But I think 3 was the exact length it could have been. I think now might be a good time to throw it to a break, because after this, the game just goes into like the highest gear and will not stop. And I think this is a good halfway point. Oh God, the music and everything. I gotta talk and do the music at the same time.
Yeah, man.
This is like, what a whole thing to manage. Anyway, we're gonna go to a break, and we will be right back after this. We're back. More MiniDisc, more Artful Escape with Alex and Kerry and me, Jeremy. I went to change the scene just then to bring us to the 3 cam, and I had to look at it for about 2 seconds to try and find the right one, because it's one that we just never use. This is going to ruin me for MiniMapCast, Kerry. This is going to absolutely destroy me.
I noticed that you counted down and then it didn't go immediately. I'm like, what's happening? Is there maybe there's just a delay on the button.
Nope. I was just looking for it.
That's funny.
So where we were up to before we went to the break was Francis had gone through the Cosmic Extraordinary, or the Extraordinary. I don't remember if the word cosmic was in it or not.
No, it's cosmic.
It is cosmic? Okay, because I think I almost called myself the Cosmic Extraordinary when you get to name it, because I was like, that sounds great and familiar. Why do it's part of the game.
Yeah.
So at this point, we then make our way to the heart, where it is like the
lung?
The lung,
yeah.
The lung. One of the respiratory systems.
The spleen.
Yeah. Which is kind of a de facto like home base, I guess, for you in between levels. It is this weird nightclub, disco, like auditorium that is
spaceship.
That is also a cruise ship. Yeah, it is also like it is a place where people go for cruises. That like this game is so weird. Like for all intents and purposes, these cruise ships probably last for eternity, right? Like there is no
of the voyage.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone ever actually gets off the ship or actually gets on the ship. It just seems like a thing that is just like a galactic constant.
Quite I like that it is called the lung because it feels like an organism. Like not just when you look at it from the outside and it looks all gross.
Yeah.
But like it's like with all the people inside and the movement, like it does feel like you're a part of this like big living thing.
And there's like and there's different layers in it as well, similar to the town of Calypso from the prologue. There's like captain's quarters, and there's the top where there's all of the gear that Violetta is working on, and the middle layer is discos and the auditorium and places where you can dance, which is a weird mini game inclusion.
Oh, so strange. Press the guitar buttons to pull some shapes.
Yeah, and you can just Did you do those, Alex? Did you do the dancing?
Yeah. Oh my god. It was very much just like it was only like a couple though, wasn't it? There wasn't too many.
No, there was only like 3.
There was a later section where you had to take photos, and it was just kind of like me being like,
doing like YMCA,
just arms in the air, like hands out. Like there was like 3.
Yeah. How do we feel about the lung as a location, as a symbol, but even just as a place to walk around, right? Like, how do we feel about it?
Well, Jeremy, you know me. You know that as soon as
you love lungs, I know this about you.
Oh yeah, I love breathing.
Yeah.
No, but like as soon as I'm in like an area where I can explore all of the things, and it's going to change every time I come back, I got to go to every room to see what's different this time, right?
Yeah.
So what I appreciated about the lung was that it wasn't too big, but it was big enough that it was fun to explore each time and worthwhile. And each of the zones were distinct. It did feel like it was alive. Like, you know, there was that main sort of bar that you walk through on the way in. It was almost like reminded me of like a bar in a fancy train carriage. You know what I mean? And that had a lot of people in it the first time. When you come through the second time, it's empty because they're all listening to Lightman play. And then come through the third time, and you're kind of not paying attention to that anymore because the stakes have risen. And it did feel alive. And also it had all of these different aliens on it, like all of those, and they're all like jittering and just sort of like bustling around, and like it was either how they danced or moved, or they just were. And it was,
they were definitely all dancing. That was the vibe I got.
The fruit salad people.
Yeah.
The vibe I got was that they were all enjoying the music.
Yeah, even when it was like intermission or the show hadn't started yet, and you talk to Zom, and Zom's like, "Oh yeah, we stole this auditorium from Vienna. They've got so many of them over there. You can just practically walk away with it." It's like, what does that mean?
That was such a funny joke. I remember that. And he said he stole a building from Vienna.
So yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was fine. I thought it was a serviceable way to create a breather in between each chapter.
Yeah. Yeah. Alex?
I really liked too, there was the elevator, how that had the character little portraits for where they were.
Yeah.
So you kind of were someone who didn't want to explore the whole thing. You could just like go straight to them if you wanted to.
Yeah, not having to go back and forth between each of the 3 layers to find like the one person I'm looking for was like, it was very, very appreciated having those there.
And as someone who wanted to see every room, it meant that I wasn't stumbling across cutscenes accidentally either. So that was great.
The negative version of that. Yeah, right.
That was a positive, Jeremy. It's good.
Yeah, no, I meant reverse.
You mean like the flip, yeah.
The person who is running a coat shop that is also like, that was very funny and very weird and silly.
I didn't understand the bit.
What was their deal? Yeah, like every time you went there, they're just like, oh, closest shutters? Like,
Yeah, so I think my understanding was the bit was that he would go up to people and say, "May I take your coat?" And they would say yes, and then he would take their coat and then on-sell it to someone who wanted to buy a coat.
Yeah, that was the vibe I was getting. Like he was running some sort of purchasing thing. And like he would always close the shutter on you because at the very first interaction, he kind of like exposes that he's running a racket.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's that thing where if you walk to the far right of the corridor and look down the corridor, there's just a pile of clothes in the corner.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck's going on down there?
this makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a cool place as well because that changed as like, oh, all of a sudden there's Vendetti shirts. Like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, there was already merch there, which was cool. And then, yeah, you sort of you hang around here, you get to spend a little bit more time with the characters, specifically Lightman and Violetta. They have some level of like tension between the two. You don't really get a whole lot just yet, aside from like, hey, there is tension.
Yeah, like business partners.
Yeah, yeah. But like business partners that probably like they should have stopped being in business together for a bit, like for like it's overdue them breaking up at this point. There's a part in Violetta's studio which is like this like backstage for like a stage, right? It is all lights and equipment and stuff, and I think this is when Francis looks around and goes like, wow, all of this stuff is incredible and I don't even know what any of it is, basically. There was a little screen just past her workshop which had like an alien on it, which you could...
That like purple thing?
Yeah, and you could talk to it.
Really?
So this is what I'm confused about. I managed to, I think it might have been the second time I come to the lung, but there was a talking prompt for that alien on the screen, and you basically talk to it and it says, "Oh, don't mind me," and that's it. And I was like, what is this thing doing here? And then it never happened again. And I was wondering if either of you two interacted with this thing at all.
I wonder if I did that and then completely forgot.
But there was no...
I have no recollection of that.
No, Alex? No, anything?
I did, but a similar thing, like I didn't really get anything past.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something I'd seen anywhere else in the game either.
No, and so I thought it was going to be like another character that was going to show up or something, but because it's in Violetta's workshop, right? Like it's not really a place where all the attendees are. But okay, yeah, right. Maybe there's a secret achievement or something for it. I'm not too sure. But yeah, like they have like some conversations, and then you sort of head back down, and you then get thrown into this ice world.
Yeah. Can I just ask, what do you two think about the concept of you being thrown somewhere and like you're constantly being broadcast to this like hedonistic cruise ship while you're like in these like dangerous environments, just playing the guitar as you like explore to find a way off a planet? Like it's such a strange concept.
I think it's cool. I think it's like it's you know, okay, different question for you, Carrie. How do you know that's not happening to you right now? Like it's like there's right. Like I think the
Truman Show.
Yeah, right. I think it made sense for this to, because like they weren't going to have a concert in between each level, because the actual musical, like the musical adventures that you're going on, they sort of need to speak for themselves. And so I think I really liked it as a narrative device to allow the crowd to get behind you and really root for you.
And you didn't have to catch anyone up on anything, and
there was no I don't believe you,
and you didn't have to play music when you were on the ship. I think it worked really well as a device to allow the story to push forward without you having to actually go onto that stage and do the thing. Alex?
Sorry, just regaining train of thought.
Yeah.
I'm still thinking about the Truman Show.
Aren't we all?
It was kind of, it's interesting in a way because like it kind of, like what you were saying, brings in the audience as a like them watching and like building hype for him. but it also kind of for me was sort of that reality TV kind of thing. Or it kind of seemed like a lot of the characters in that weren't too like they were just kind of like, yeah, you're on your own, kid. Like, good luck.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like they want to see what happens, and it's almost feels like that kind of like, even if he fails, they're gonna enjoy it. Like, so
they comment on that as well, right? Where they like when you first get to that planet, and he says like, oh, like, is this dangerous? And Violetta says like, oh yeah, like even I don't come here. And they have that moment of like in the desert, I think, where it's like, yeah, like, look, like, this is all a lot, because if you die, it's still content, basically.
Oh yeah, the viewers are going up because like you're in serious danger.
Yeah.
It's an interesting commentary, I think. Like, even if it's not like the main commentary, but it still pops up a few times that I think it's an interesting angle. Like,
yeah,
because of course this is his journey, but like the other people don't care about his journey; they just want a good show.
And his journey's only happening for the sake of the denizens of the lung.
Exactly. It's quite fascinating. Like, it's
And so you're on this ice planet. Does this ice planet have a name? I didn't catch the name of this.
They all did. I don't remember.
Yeah, they're all science fiction names.
I'll look up the trophies, because like each trophy was like complete Glimmerdim, which was the city in the second one.
Yeah, right. But yeah, like you're on this snow planet, and you are there basically to like go to the to reach the Star Gordon stuff, right? It's to the plot started to lose me at points because I was just kind of focused on like the actual like background. You're there to basically have more tales, right? It's to get like all of this different experience so that he can actually play.
So the planet is called Heliotroms.
Heliotroms, right? Okay. And you were then trying to reach Star Gordon, so that he can. Is it so he can do an interview, or is it so he can book you?
He's your way back home. That's the thing. It's like every time you go to the planet, it's like, how do I get back to the lung now that I'm not on the lung? And it's like, you gotta find Star Gordon.
Right. Okay. And so and this is when you start to actually experience what the game is for its mechanics, which is running and jumping and gliding, and then the actual mechanic of the playing the guitar with the 5 buttons. You start to get a little bit more like some genuine like, oh, like, okay, like this is maybe not what you expected. 2 buttons at once, 3 buttons at once, pressing them all in the right at the right times. How do we feel about the guitar playing mechanic?
The 5-button array.
Yeah. I think I wanted it to be harder, but I also didn't want to have any more trouble with it than what I was doing.
Exactly. I didn't want to have moments where I failed.
Yeah.
You go, Alex.
I think I felt a lot. And like, I think a big part of it was just kind of remembering when it started getting really fast.
Yeah.
And it almost felt like it wanted me to fail. So then it would like stop, and then you'd have to like reassess. And you would get there eventually, but it kind of, I don't know.
Because it's not a series of shapes that you've seen in any other game. Like, it's not a codified series of shapes. Like, if it was like the 4 face buttons, like the diamond face buttons, that 100%. Would be easier than the top 3 buttons on the bottom and the 2 shoulder buttons on the top.
Yeah. Because
it was funny, because then my right thumb is doing 3, my right finger is doing 1 so then my right hand is doing 4 of the buttons, but then one of them's over there on the left, which is so yeah.
Welcome to, I think, what is maybe my biggest complaint with the game. I think what should have happened is it should be the top 3 buttons on the face buttons, and the top and up, left, and right on the directional pad as well.
Oh.
And
so you're just using your thumbs.
Yeah, I'm using my thumbs and I'm using my 2 fingers, but I can use like say for the middle button, which is usually triangle or Y, that can either be up on the D-pad or triangle or Y. so that I can for the top 3 face buttons, I can use either of them at any time.
Yeah, okay.
So that way I've
makes
got
sense.
both hands on the 2 areas of buttons, and both of my hands, both of my fingers on the trigger, on the bumpers R1 and L1, because it would throw me off every time when I had to press the left bumper and any of the face buttons, only because they're so close to each other on the little grid, and on the controller they are at like almost opposite ends. It would always, like, part of my brain would just twist just a little bit every single time it would happen.
Yeah, I was frequently pausing before pressing buttons.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. It wasn't easy to understand, and especially when you saw it on different like iterations of like, what would you call it, like a rhythm challenge kind of thing?
Yeah, like a
Yeah, or like a melody challenge.
Yeah,
Rhythm, melody, memory. Like it was kind of bizarre because then I'd always
Simon
get to the
Says
point-
really is what it was.
Yeah, like Simon Says, perfect. Like I always would mix up not the shoulder bumpers, but I would mix up the 3 like top, like the X, Y, A. Oh, no, it's B.
XYA on Nintendo.
But like, there we go. Nintendo at heart. It's like I always would mix up those 3 buttons where I'd end up doing the shoulder bumper instead of the X, and run into the problem there where it would be like dun dun.
Yeah.
Which,
And it was never too punishing, but it's like that Guitar Hero problem when you get to like a sustain note at the end of the song and you just happen to miss it, and all of a sudden the end of the song is just empty because you missed the entrance to the note, and it's so unsatisfying.
Yeah.
I found like some of them chunked up a bit because you'd have like it was a AY like at the same time, or like the shoulder bumper and A, and it would be at the same time, but then sometimes it wouldn't unlock until you did like one and then the other.
Yes.
They had like a very quick succession.
Yeah.
I think what it was, if you were holding the previous note and you press the next note, it wouldn't activate. That was what I tended to notice. So I always had to make sure I took my finger off whatever I was pressing before the next one.
It was always
really didn't help.
Individual notes or 2 at the same time, but it was never one, then the other, then take off the first. Which that also did trip me up as well. What I did really like about this, however, was at the end of every one of these little matches that you've got, you would always start to see the lights light up before the, like, I guess, opponent was playing it. And so then you would start to get in sync. Then you would start to play the same notes as the alien that you were playing with / against at the same time. And you would then create this, like, oh, like, we're actually playing it. Like, it happens, like, the first time you, like, learn the mechanics from Zom, but, like, when it really started to hit for me was on this line. I was like, oh, okay, like we're like I'm following your lead, and then we are playing together in like a really uniform way. That I was like, you know what, like that's a really cool thing that they did. Because every time you were playing in unison, it was like, oh yeah, yep, I like that.
Was very satisfying when you did line up, like when you saw it, like, or even when you'd lost and you were doing it again. Yeah, because then you knew the pattern, you could do it at the same time. That was satisfying. It tickled a good part in my brain. Yeah, like it's that good. Bam. Especially when the lights in the background started moving around as well. Like
and those final notes, they really build the chords underneath it. Like the cadence of the thing is that it's those classic resolution chords. You know, it's those moments of resolution we're not getting from the whale button, right? Where it's like bah, 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 and it's like, yes! It's like that every time, which was good. I didn't get sick of it.
100%. Yeah.
And then we move on to actually meeting with Star Gordon. Like that was his name, right? Star Gordon. Like that was and then you sort of have this weird, like he's a very untrustworthy character at the beginning, I think. Or like that's what my partner said, who was watching the game while I was playing it. But I was like, oh, I think this guy's great. And my partner's like, I don't trust him. Like,
Well, they made such a big deal about how dangerous everything was, and this was like the point of where you were going, right? So this must have been the point of the danger, and then you kind of went on this trip with him.
yeah, and then he makes a joke about like eating you, and doesn't.
Yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah. Oh, Lightman never came back when he knew we planned to eat him.
yeah. So yeah, you have this initial conversation with him, and then you have this weird like 60s talk show segment where you're sort of going back and forth, and like he's asking you very like very leading questions intentionally, like a talk show does, so that you then say a specific kind of answer, and it's all planned ahead. But this is the part where you decide your backstory. I actually didn't really enjoy the sequence. Only because I think it was too dialogue heavy and too dialogue choice heavy that I just kind of didn't really connect with this as much. Like the decisions you make further impact your character's backstory later on when he starts to tell everybody where he is every 5 seconds. But I think this actual section for me just didn't really do a whole lot.
Well, Star Gordon didn't really have that many unique responses to your unique answers.
Yeah, that was probably
so
part
you
of
could
it.
pick whatever, and you'd be like, yes, interesting. And then the next thing.
Yeah.
See, I don't know if it was just when I played, but like similar thoughts. But I think I had like stopped playing just before that section.
Right.
And then when I jumped back in, I was like, oh, this is not what I finished up on. Like, I don't know whether it like auto looped me to the next checkpoint or like I was just that close and I hadn't quite made it.
Yeah, right.
And I was kind of thinking, oh, maybe this is like a thing when you like jump back into the game where it's just kind of like talk show. Like maybe this is like a game mechanic. Like this is kind of cool.
Funny.
And then of course jumped in again. That didn't happen. I was like, okay, cool. But like it was quite interesting because I guess I was sort of feeling like, hey, what happened to what I was doing?
Like, yeah.
And I kind of had lost my track.
That's kind of the end of that whole level, isn't it? Like you do the interview with Star Gordon and then he sends you off into space and you're back on the lung all of a sudden, right? Is that how that plays out? No, that's not how that plays out.
No, there's another section in the recording studio.
Yeah, this is the halfway moment, isn't it?
Pardon?
Because you play for a creature that's like, you have to impress me. And that like sends you off into space, and that's how you get back to the lung.
Yeah, that was why I thought there was a purpose to going to Star Gordon, which was there was something about because he's like a talent agency or something.
Yeah, he's the agent, I think.
Yeah, and then
he's the agent who you need to get managed by. And then
yeah, for you to book the gig with the thing that you have to impress. That wasn't the Glamogon, which I really thought it was.
I thought it was as well.
Else.
Yeah, I was like, oh, we're already doing a Glamogon, cool. And then no one commented the fact that I just like impressed the Glamogon. And I was like, why is no one talking about this? Isn't that like his whole thing? But yeah. So then there's the part in the recording studio where you like he starts to tell you like basically like play better or like play better music, which I thought was funny. And then after
go back into that folk song stuff again.
Yeah,
Francis is still kind of like, oh, I like folk music.
That's who I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, and he starts talking about like, oh, like this is serious music and the stuff that I was playing before is like nonsense. But then then he goes on and impresses another creature who then does the creature eat you or does it just like open and
No, it gets like jet engines and like shoots off into space and you like follow alongside it.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and then there's another rhythm section there.
Yeah, and that was another rhythm game.
Jumping onto those stages.
Playing this game in what was basically 2 sittings was interesting because so many sections of this game are so like they move to the next location so quickly, even if it's from being on the lake where this creature is to being in the sky with where this creature is. I don't always have a through line in my head of them because they move so far so quickly.
I'm struggling to piece it together, and I'm usually quite good at that. Like, but it does go from kind of like one nonsense thing to the next nonsense thing, which is fine. It was great.
Yeah, and it was enjoyable the entire time. But yeah, like there is a level of like recalling this. Like if you ask me next week, which part came first, I probably would not be able to tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, is there any more feelings on the ice planet? I quite liked the amount of like background that would react to your music. Like, it happens in all of them, but I think I noticed that like quite a lot in this one, more than the other two planets.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, you go, Alex.
No, you.
I've got mine written down here. I said, playing in the snowy forest with the large, springy Mass Effect Reapers, purple glowing skyscraper crabs was great.
I'm glad you commented on the Mass Effect Reapers as well.
Yeah. And they were really cool. Like, you'd play and then they'd all wake up and then they shot out lasers out of their heads. And it was like, whoa, this forest's great.
Look at that, Shepard. Yeah. I kind of a similar thing with like going through that level, but I think it seemed a lot like they were trying to train you to look at the background and interact with it.
Yeah,
it was run through the weather.
it was such a obvious background, like, notice me section, definitely. In a good way.
Definitely got me for the other planets. Like, what's going to happen here? I'm playing the guitar. Movement?
Yeah.
I think I wasn't paying as much attention to it until Sam started being like, wow, this is gorgeous. Or then like something else would happen. It was like, whoa, look at that. And like, I was just like, game, jump, slide, triangle, games, shred, slide. But then the Sam kind of brought me out. It was like, don't pay attention to that too much. Just like, like watch the laser show. There is one more thing I want to bring up, and it doesn't happen for the only time on the ice planet, but it happens for the first time on the ice planet, which is the third type of music playing. There's the shredding as you platform. There's the 5-button array, but then there's the free play sections, I'll call them, where you get those same 5 buttons, but they're assigned to 5 different notes.
I forgot
and you can just play them in whatever you want. And this is the one with the whales with like the Seattle skyscrapers on their back, and like the skeletons that are sticking out of their ground, and then they like burst open into light beams and stuff like that. This particular section, the way I've made sure to mention, I think it was my favorite moment of the game. And I think for me, it was the freest part, right? It was the part that let me kind of make my own music. With someone with an older now music background, I was kind of looking for that at some point, and they did give it to me. I never connected with it in the same ways again on the second and third planets. I felt like those sections were shorter, and I felt like they didn't culminate in the same way that this first one did. But I loved the way the music built under it lasted just the right amount of time. Like, I was so into that moment and watching the visuals and listening to the chords underneath, and sometimes it would change the notes that you played as well as it like moved to the next like motion of the song. And then it really built to a moment. Whereas in the other ones, they were kind of like 1 minute interstitials, and like you'd play and you'd play and you'd play, and then it was like, all right, get off the platform. The music's over, keep going. And it was like, we're not. This isn't a crescendo moment. Okay. This first one though.
Yeah. There was a level of like I also did want like more. I think I actually wanted to play along a little bit more in this section. Like, I wanted a little bit of guidance of like, even if there was like colors in the sky that would be assigned different notes, and it's like, I don't need to hit them, but if I did, that would be cool. And I can sort of like, similar to in Parappa the Rapper, one of the ways that you get a really high score is by doing the right like beats at the right time, like the right raps, and then freestyling in between them and still getting it right.
Right.
And there are ways to get better, and like there are ways to do that and get a really good score as well. I kind of wanted a little bit more like not even specific purpose, because I didn't want it to have like, I didn't want that section to have like a fail state, but I wanted to I think I just wanted to play along with the music more.
Yeah, that's fair. How did you feel with these sections, Alex?
It's like, I was similar with that section where it was kind of, it felt good that it was really responsive, but it was almost kind of one of those things where it was kind of like, how responsive is too responsive. And then like how am I alter? Like, what if I just press the one key for the whole thing? To go through, like, and
Well, yeah, and like I think you could have just not pressed anything as well. I think that was another valid option.
but like,
yeah.
I had similar with the background for that, where like when those whales start really like rising up and you see the buildings and that moving around, it's kind of one of those moments where I think I like literally like sat back a bit and I was just like, damn, okay, like
Yeah.
it brings out like a lot of possibility in the game, I think, which I think's pretty important for Francis's like story in the game, because I think it almost kind of feels possible, or at least like something he can do. Like,
Yeah. And
some
for a game that's
characters
about like finding yourself and expressing yourself, it's nice that they give you the player the chance to express yourself more directly as well.
Oh, 100%, yeah. Even like later on when you get to decide the wardrobe, like
Yes.
So
yes.
kind of like it really does become like a vehicle for whatever you want to put on him. Like,
speaking of, I missed the section because I didn't know when it was, because it's sort of in the middle of two sections that don't have a whole lot of connection. At this point in the game, we've already decided what our name is. Because it happens when you meet the god, the
the tastemaker?
Yeah, like Lena Headey. The giant galaxy head.
floating head.
That happens in between the lung and Lightman's.
Yes.
I thought it was way later than that, but it turns out it's there. What names did we all pick?
I'm very happy with mine, but
Go on.
so I went through all the options and then I was like, I think I've got one. I can't it was quite an impressive list of the written ones that they give you. And so I was like, oh, there's one in the middle there that I liked. I'm going to go back through again. I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's the one. And then I came back to it. I'm like, yeah, okay. And then I'm like, oh, wait, they want me to write something. I'm like, I just put in the first thing that came to my head. So my character was the ethereal meal.
Right. That's quite good. The ethereal meal.
Yeah, it's good. I don't know. It's weird if you think about it for too long, but it's funny.
Alex, what was yours?
Not that good. Like, it's funny because I wasn't really expecting it to pop up as much as it did after I selected it.
Yeah.
But because like my brain thinking was like, there's no way this game's gonna say my name. Like, and it didn't say my name. It did an electric guitar strum every single time it played the input part, which is totally fair. But because of that thinking, I was just kind of like, well, I'm just gonna put my name in. So I think I was like I was the ethereal Alex.
Oh, right.
And like every time it like popped up, like, oh my god, the ethereal Alex is here, and then like,
I also chose ethereal.
What?
Hey,
that's wild.
What?
That's absolutely wild.
When you said it, Kerry, part of me was like, oh, now I've chosen the same one as Kerry. And then Alex, when you said it, I put my hands on my head saying, like, all three of us chose.
That's so strange.
I even cycled through them a bit.
So did I. I looked through all of them. I was like, I looked through every single one. I'm like, you know what? I think ethereal is the one for me.
That is so funny.
That's wild. I chose my character because I was like, okay, what, like, I'm getting a little bit of Ziggy Stardust, like you said earlier, Carrie, which we'll get to him later. Like, I'm getting a little bit of like Space Odyssey stuff. What kind of sounds like a Space Odyssey, like a Space Oddity even. So I called my character the Ethereal Approach.
Oh, I love that.
Which sounds like a 70s fusion band or something, right?
Oh yeah, that's a 70s sci-fi word is what that is.
Yeah, it's like it because I was thinking like what sounds like Lonnie Liston Smith and the Cosmic Echoes. Like the Ethereal Approach is the one for me. So I did that. That's so funny that all three of us chose Ethereal.
I like how both of you chose cool names, and I'm just like Alex.
But I really like the sound of that though. Like
I honestly was just like, nah, it's just they're asking my name and it's gonna be like on my save file or something. It's fine. Like, and then it just kept popping up, and I'm just like, you guys are taking the piss now. Like,
I do wish the voice actor hadn't said the line as if there was a full stop after the end of it. I am the ethereal. Like,
Yeah,
Like, say it like you're saying something else afterwards too. Like, I wonder whether they didn't plan to put in the written bit and then they put it in after they did the voiceover. Like, maybe, but like it was little.
I actually didn't particularly like the voice actor for Francis. There were a few moments in the game where I was like, I don't think that was a very good read of it. Like, like that was like, I know there's corny and campy, but I was like, I actually just don't think that was well done. And maybe it's because, you know, against Lena Headey, Carl Weathers, Mark Strong, Jason Schwartzman, right? These are all like really good, very, very talented people who are doing.
That's where the budget's gone.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Cersei is your giant flying space head.
Yeah,
like, that's something like.
Speaking of Star Gordon being Mark Strong, I thought he was great. Like as just like
Mark Strong.
Have you seen the? Okay, here's a weird pull. Have you seen him in the Sherlock Holmes movie with Robert Downey Jr. carrying?
I've seen that movie. I don't remember him in it.
He was the villain.
Great. He's also in the Kingsman movies.
Yeah,
and the
like
Robin Hood TV show. I love that show. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, Mark Strong is quite good. Just like in anything but in this as well. He was like, he looks like Hitman.
Oh, I do know this guy.
Born Marco Giuseppe Salasolia.
There you go.
Bit of trivia for you.
He's the villain in the Shazam movie. That has any of us seen that movie?
No.
Nope.
Oh, he's the
I
villain.
don't remember the villain though.
Yeah, right. He's got a
You
type.
played your favorite forgettable characters.
Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, so yeah, after
Star Gordon's was funny. Like
Yeah.
it was a weird tone, and it was a trip, and it was like, oh, this is dangerous, and oh no, he's kind of being a friend to you. He's kind of saying, oh yeah, no, you should. He's looking out for you a bit.
all of the different creatures that you have the guitar battles with, like going forward as well, I really appreciate them working the sigil into their face or into their body or in anything. I thought that was always quite cool. The one that you impress at the end of this planet, which then turns into a rocket ship, its name is Troms.
Yes.
And I think that's just a good name. I think he's a funny looking guy, and I think that's a good name.
Alex, did you think this was the Glamagon?
It just kind of constantly felt like they were building up to it. So I was just kind of like waiting for them to be like, this is the Glamagon.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of like when they explained it in like broad strokes, like you got to go see the Glamagon. But before you can do that, you've got to go see the agent to get signed. Like it kind of got a bit overwhelming, I guess.
There was always something to do before there was something to do.
Exactly. It's like, maybe don't like tell me that, or maybe just like preface it a bit differently, like, because otherwise I think with the constant journey kind of thing, it sort of felt a bit like I was being pulled along, I guess.
Right.
Like, and yeah,
even if they were like, you're gonna go here and then you're gonna go here, like, but not make them, this is the gate to then open this gate. Make it just like, oh yeah, like you're gonna go to A and then you're gonna go to B.
It just kind of seemed like a and then. Like,
yeah,
because I didn't expect it to be 3 planets. I thought maybe, you know, it might be like the 2, or maybe it's like the 1, or maybe, but then it kind of just was like, okay, and we're off to this planet now. I'm totally glad that I went to 3 planets, but again, I was sort of thinking for the game, like I was like, how many planets can we really be going to? Like, it's not going to be like 8 planets worth of strumming and thrumming, like.
So after this planet, we head back to the lung, and we have more conversations with Violetta and Lightman, where basically there's a level of like this is when, after like Star Gordon says to Francis, I believe, like, oh hey, like do you want me to show everybody what you're like? And then he says no. Because he's in the he's in the recording studio, and he says like, I can transport you to the stars and beyond, baby. And he goes, I don't want my small town to know that I'm playing this music that I don't think very highly of.
Yeah, and Violet is like, you could have left them behind as soon as this happened. You could have forgotten about them. My lasers would have been all over the galaxy. You idiot.
Yeah. She's got two specific lines of thought, which was like why do you care about those people? You could have left them behind, and also like this would have meant the world to me. I certainly wasn't considering that at all. And I think it was a good level of it's not just about you. And then there's also the hints of Lightman maybe not being as good as he once was anymore. There's a conversation between Violetta and Lightman where she basically says like, you're missing your cues. Because
don't think I haven't noticed.
Yeah, and like he complains to her like, oh, like you, like the lighting was off sync or something, and she goes, no, everything I did was right. It was you that was doing it wrong. And we sort of get hints of maybe he's been doing this for quite a while and he's getting a little bit past it.
Yeah, I found that particular section, not that storyline, but that section and those lines of dialogue, I found them quite sad. Like she was being rude, like she was being like hurtful, and like he was adept and maybe familiar enough with that kind of thing to be able to shrug it off and move along. But I was like, oh man, that would actually really sting.
I don't know, like if it was just my own thoughts on that whole thing, but it sort of seemed like the uncle, something had happened that sort of cut his career short, because he headlined for, or he was like the support act for I'm going to say Letterman.
For Lightman.
Letterman.
David Letterman.
I knew it was going to happen. But like he was the supporting act for Lightman, and obviously Lightman's older. So it was kind of just like it kind of wasn't gelling, and there was never any like, I don't think they actually stated as such, but especially like you see all like the photography and like stuff of him, the uncle, and he just kind of looks like the same age and everything. Like it's not like there's any like of him old or anything. So I thought maybe that was kind of building that a little bit. Like,
and also like everyone's opining for the time where he was alive still is like like he was gone too soon, or
because obviously the uncle's not coming to the concert, because you feel like there would be a little bit of prelim there, but again it kind of was looping back into like, oh, how do I put words to it properly? Like it's almost like his career was cut too short, but maybe like Lightman's career is at a point where he needs to like, I don't want to say he needs to stop, but like he needs to like let someone else take.
Or like stop living in the past, like stop trying to find what you had in the past and either move forward or do something else. Yeah.
Because like Lightman does make some pretty like rash decisions, especially towards the end of the game when he's jumping up in front of is that the Glamourgon one?
Yeah,
that's the Glamourgon one. Because they're like, holy shit, like he's gonna get destroyed. He's gonna get like obliterated. Like,
so I'm pretty sure that Jonathan Vendetti is dead at this point. Because there was a thing that happens at the end of the game, which I don't know if you two maybe didn't see it, and if you didn't, I'm gonna save it for later when we get to that point. But yes, I agree with you that it does feel like that maybe this was a version of the uncle that was that could have continued.
I have a feeling I know what you're referring to, and I'm like, I know, but I also am kind of like, I feel like it wasn't stated in the game, like before that point. Like they kind of just left it as just like a John Vendetti. It's his nephew. Like, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, moving on.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah, and so you then at this point then move into the second planet. The
Glimmerdim.
Glimmerdim. Dim or Din?
Dim.
Glimmerdim. Which is like a desert / like salt spa springs kind of planet.
Well, yeah, you also land near Beige City.
Yes, it's all everything is rock or water. There is no or sand. There is no vegetation. There is not really many life. Like many like animals or anything. There's like the big fish things that you meet a couple of times, but there's no
I love the commentary on like everything was beige and everyone moved away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out it's kind of fucking boring living in a place like that.
But then also they all move to a place that's quite colorful but quite strict, and like that's beige in its own way, where it can only be the one thing.
Yeah.
So it may as well be beige.
Yes.
Like.
Yeah. So we end up fighting a big, like, I think they were called like scalefish or something, and it's got more lasers shooting out of it when it works, and then there was a part where you see these rhino looking freaky dog looking things that like it's such a little moment, and it's such a like it's such a like forgettable moment, but I definitely remember that there was a moment where he says like I would have named them like pink like what are they? Pink spotted rock stompers. And then he just moves swiftly on because I guess that's a reminder, like, he's a kid. Like, he still will think of silly things like that and still has a imagination that isn't like this old man who only wants to have the next big score, right?
Can I say, just before that, before you get to the Beige City, you have to go through the caves, and you go to the jazz club with the like the dog made of coral that speaks in saxophone.
Yes.
That was fun.
I'm glad we looped back to that. Like, I was just like, I'm to the nightclub.
Yeah, like it was just such like a moment to be there. Like it didn't really have any greater significance, but to be a jazz club with a saxophone speaking coral dog,
there was so much creativity just in that one section that like that just moves on to an entirely different section almost instantly.
Even just the animation and the design of that area is so singular. I don't know. It was a fun little area, and as someone who has played saxophone, I enjoyed that a lot. Surprise, surprise.
I think going through the caverns there before as well was really cool with the lights, because I think I don't know, something about that was particularly satisfying to me, like seeing how reactive they were in that sort of dark cavern and like it lighting up fully, like
And then there's the part after that is because this coral dog is like it's meant to promise you a ride, which is this turtle.
Yeah.
Which is that's just a good sentence to say. And after that, you get there and the turtle is gone. The turtle is no longer around, and you sort of just continue on until you bump into Frida, who is definitely
my favorite character.
Definitely meant to be Frida Kahlo as well. On her ship, the Ruby Cola, which is a great name for a ship. That's such a fucking cool name for a ship, and definitely a drink he saw before he fell asleep as he's dreaming in his bedroom, right? What were our thoughts on Frida and the ship? Alex, you said Frida was your favorite character. Why is that?
She was. I think just her writing and her voice acting. I don't know who her voice actor was, but she felt like particularly like fresh, like not fresh, but like she seemed very like I wasn't expecting to bump into her in that city. Like, and it was kind of, and she was just doing her own thing, and she's like, yeah, sure, hop aboard my giant flying pancreas or whatever it was.
Yeah.
All the flying body parts. But yeah, like you get on a ship, and like exploring that ship as well felt really satisfying, because it seemed to me like when you were jumping around it, like you weren't supposed to be traversing it how you were traversing it.
Yeah.
But it was very satisfying to be like climbing up on the roof. And yeah.
And then
it kind of was the only way to traverse it as well.
Exactly.
Like, it was so ramshackle.
Frida is voiced by Artemis Pebdani, who is not someone I've ever heard of.
Shout out to the name Artemis. I love that name.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Good job, Artemis. Like
it's funny that you say Frida was your favorite character, because my favorite character was also on the boat.
Galvaggio.
The dog?
That was like another coral dog.
Yeah, another coral dog that is like immediately told to you, do not talk to this thing. And then the moment the dog talks to you, it is in this extraordinarily loud bass boosted shout that is that made me burst out laughing the first time I heard it because it was so shocking and so tonally different to the conversations that were happening.
What was the he described the outfit. It was like
a triumph of human spirit.
Yeah. And then you could say that later. It's like, I was told this outfit was as a triumph of the human spirit.
Yeah. And then he says, I am overcome with sorrow later.
I am overcome with sorrow.
It's so funny.
What a compliment.
That was, I think I saw in the credits that was actually Johnny Galvatron.
Oh, really? That's good. That's funny.
Nice. I'm curious with both of you because I felt like, how do you feel with the closet being in that section? Like that being when you finally get some like take on your character's clothes. What like?
As in like it being that far in, or
yeah, like I sort of felt it was a bit far in, but that might have been
it was, wasn't it? I really kind of appreciated that. Like you were given this character who was a character, but through the character finding themselves, you got to find how they express themselves, and it was an opportunity for you to express yourself. Like, and so like it kind of came along with like him accepting himself in a way, because like he's still not ready for the outfit when he gets it, but you have that moment by the middle of the third one where he's like, I got to own this because like we're all gonna die if I don't, and he starts owning it, and then he has that really down moment, and he tries to play Square. I know I'm jumping ahead, but he tries to play Square a ballad about the miner or whatever, and he just says, no, I'm not going to do this. This isn't who I am. This isn't who I'm going to be. And like the game, obviously that's where the game's leading from like the first minute. But like, I guess it felt like a really nice way to lead into that. The slow, like naming yourself like an hour in, and then like slowly piecing together your backstory, and then spending as long as you want to do the character creator after you've been with the character for half the game. I kind of liked it.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I didn't like I didn't particularly. I don't know where I would have put it if I didn't put it there. Like, and that's not to say that I don't think it could have fit better or worse earlier or later in the game. I do think it does work with the narrative of this character finding themselves. But
I think I would have dressed my character differently if it was in a separate part of the game.
Yeah, maybe. And I think that's maybe why I am happy for it to be where it is. I wouldn't have, only because the moment I started this game, I was like, oh, like Ziggy Stardust, I'm going to do Ziggy Stardust. And then like I then found out that I can dress my character. I'm like, well, time to Google what his outfit looks like again, and then try and do that with my outfit. So I made him.
Oh, so for podcast listeners, goodness me, yeah, we've got the aqua teal pants and shoulder pad jacket.
It's hard, right? So Ziggy Stardust's outfit is red and blue stripes on the jacket that have shouldered pads, and also on the pants.
There are a lot of shoulder pad options in there, I did notice.
Yes. Nothing in the shirt or jacket or pants options gave me anything for stripes. The pants had there was track pants which had stripes down the side, which I picked, but the actual jackets were mostly single tone with just different colored like accents on it.
I almost felt like they were trying to like purposely not let you do that, like in a way. Like,
yeah,
because I was like,
it would have been too easy.
It would have been too easy because I also went there like, oh, like face paint, great, awesome. Where's the lightning face paint? There's got to be a lightning bolt on the face paint. None. And I'm like, you totally thought about that and decided that you didn't want to.
It almost feels like it was like intentional, because if you're someone who's jumping into this game with like, I want to make David Bowie, or like I want to make someone who's like that iconic look. Yeah. And then you get to that point of deciding, it's like, oh fuck, it's not here. Yeah. What do I pick?
Yeah.
Well, it kind of circumvents the whole point of of you dressing your character, right? Of expressing this new thing, and it is inspired by Ziggy Stardust, but it's not about Ziggy Stardust.
It's kind of a very player-sided thing that I liked.
Yeah. I definitely was like, oh, you fucking you read me like a book.
How about you, Alex? What was yours?
So mine, I tried. I get very overwhelmed with character creators.
So you got like a red studded jacket.
Yeah,
the
I got
wings on the
hair,
glasses, the blue hair.
I do like that style
Shirts
jacket.
unbuttoned.
I think I had that shirt. Yeah.
I really like that leather jacket, and if I ever see that jacket, I will give a kidney for it. And then I had purple pants. I decided to go with the real neon guitar, which was that the normal one? I think that was the normal one.
I can't remember which was the default shape, but it started out as just blue. It's just like hologram blue.
Yeah, well, that was the more neon one.
That jacket kind of reminds me of this jacket, Alex, which is a jacket that you can buy, which was worn by one Nicolas Cage in a movie.
That was quite the reveal.
I was not expecting Nicolas Cage. Fuck. Damn. Hello.
Leah from Games Hub made that jacket after they saw that picture.
I've seen that. Yeah.
It is very impressive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Like after those images went viral, Leah was like, "I want that jacket," and so they went and then made one for themselves.
Yeah.
You're right.
Something when I was going through the colors that was just like that's fucking cool. Like,
Yeah. All right, Kerry, what you got?
All right, so here's my creation. I kept the original glasses just because I liked them a bit. Here we go. Let's zoom in a bit. But I had a red, green, and yellow theme. So a yellow suit jacket.
Friends Gone Dark. There we go.
And then like yellow shoes, yellow jacket, yellow hot pants under this, like yellow shorts under the guitar. And yeah, I really like these tights. They was a cool design, cool color combo. And then like the red tips in the hair. And then yeah, I really liked the default glasses, so I just changed their color a bit. And I loved being able to create my own guitar. I really liked that. I didn't love too many of the options, but there were enough there where I felt like I could make something fun. So yeah, I really liked this section.
Yeah, I also love the inclusion of just a little a little photo booth area for you to sit in and like strike a pose to take a picture in. Like that was
with like the good lighting.
I was like, you are proud of this character customization. You want to see it in all its glory. Go and strike a pose, take a picture, share it. Like it's good.
It's definitely when you are walking through the closet, which spectacular closet.
Yes. Oh my god.
It did sort of seem like, okay, now this we're just getting chucked in. But then you sort of go in and you're in suddenly like a shopping plaza, like a mall kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you're opening all of the stores as you go into them, and then you have access to them.
Yes. Yeah. I was just about to say that. I did love how you had to go through.
That was very cute.
Go through it to get access to all of them. Yeah, totally.
But then it wasn't like you had to go visit each one to be like, oh, now that I've changed my pants, I want to go back and change my gloves. Yeah.
And yeah, being able to just cycle through on the top, that was perfect.
Yeah. So where we all
like,
sorry.
With again thinking about whether the game is real or not.
Yeah,
because he's at the shopping mall.
Yeah.
In the, like no one else around, definitely can't fit it. Like,
yeah, it was another thing where I was just like, this is fucking cool, but I'm like, interesting.
Yeah.
I still fuck with it though. Like,
well, yeah, it's funny because like when you come out and speak to Frida, and she's like, "Where did you get these clothes?" He's like, "I got them from the wardrobe in your ship." And she's like, "No, where in all of the world did you get these clothes?" And he's like, "Oh," but it was funny just being like, "I got them in the shopping center."
Yeah,
shopping center in your closet. Like,
were we all happy with our creations from that point on? Did we ever think like, "Oh, I wish I could have tweaked that," by like afterwards?
I was happy with mine. I was definitely happy with mine.
I think I was pretty happy with mine, but I think I was really hesitant to go back and change anything because I didn't want to like jump into the whole like, okay, well, what am I going to be now?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Change every single piece of the outfit, like just select the programs. Like,
I was pretty happy with mine too.
So from this point onwards, we head upstairs and we get a hologram call from Lightman, who was quite down, and this is the point where he lets you know he's no longer the captain anymore, and that they have elected you the captain of the Lung, because every ship needs a captain, and you had since been promoted. So
because you were on the main stage.
Yeah. Like, what was it? It was like suddenly you had started getting way more views than Lightman was getting at this point. And then you're flying in the ship and you head over to the fashionista.
Yeah.
Like you go to this beige city, and because at this point it's like, okay, time to go back to the lung. The fashionista has the turtle, I believe.
Yes.
And so you have to try and convince the turtle to, convince the fashionista to give you access to the turtle so you can head back to the lung.
Yeah.
Which is again another sentence I'm a fan of. And you come across these two guards, which were quite funny. Like they had like a really good voice.
Like that interaction.
Yeah, like they were really good.
And it was their only lines.
Yeah, and they were talking about like the color, because you get given a ticket at some point to access the city. That's right, because the person who
Ticket's the wrong color.
yeah, like the person who originally had the turtle didn't have the turtle for you, so they gave you a ticket to access the city where the turtle was.
That's right.
And you get to the guards, and the guards are like, "Well, this is the wrong color ticket. It's the wrong beige of gold, basically, the wrong shade of gold."
Is it? Golden toothpaste 22.
Yeah.
All regulation items are golden toothpaste 23C.
They reminded me of, in the Pirates of the Caribbean movie, there were those two reoccurring guards. That like in the first one, they're the ones that are like saying like, "Oh, you can't park there," and he goes like, "Yes, I can," and he goes, "Oh, can he?" And he goes, "No, I don't think he can." And he goes, and they're very easily convinced, and they very easily get into an argument. Like I saw these two characters almost as those two British military men, because they were having the same like, "What color would you say this ticket is?" Like, "Oh, I think that one's the toothpaste 22. Like, "Yeah, I would say the same." "You know what that toothpaste 22 is?" Like, "Yeah, it's not allowed in, is it?" "Yeah, not allowed in." You know, like
they're just fucking with the guy for no reason.
Yes. And so you just run past them. You're like, "Fuck it."
Yeah.
Gonna get it anyway, which is good, because I was like,
finally when the game's like, it's the Artful Escape.
Yes.
You're escaping. Like,
This was such a cool like set piece. I think this was the best platformer moment.
Yeah, because you start going along these bean-shaped building rooftops and rounded edges of different roofs and stuff, and you're jumping from building to building, and there's this giant mouth ship following.
Oh yeah,
and basically trying to get you to stop causing a rebellion. But it is trying to get you to stop in, like, you know, there's a line here which I wrote down as, "I cannot allow such a rebellion, such daring," which was very funny. I agree with you, Kerry. I think this one was the best platforming section for me. It was exciting, and it was also good, like good momentum all the way throughout, I found.
Yeah, a few tricky jumps where they're like pulling the bridges, but you can make it if you do the third jump, and like they're closing the doors, and it was never really hard, but it was fun.
And running through one of the buildings with some of the locals nearby, and Francis quipping like, "Oh, this is really exciting for you," or something as he runs through. Alex, what do you think about this area?
I really like going through the city, especially because it did feel like the stakes were there. Like, kind of like on the run a little bit. Like it was, you know, he's following you. He's like, "No revolution," you know, and it's quite like, it was quite a funny chase in that, because it has someone take seriously taking the guy who's chasing you. It looks like a fruit salad. Seriously, I was like, well, but it again though, like going through those platformer sections when you had to like go from building roof to building roof and do that strum at the right moment was so satisfying to hit.
Yes.
And let you use that slide on the circle as well a bunch of times, which is good.
And then like, especially when you get to like the kind of like the standoff moment when he's like, "Haha, I've caught you," and then like Frida comes in with the giant big pancreas, I'm gonna call it again. And you know, she's like to the rescue, and then you can continue on.
You're a desert flower. Don't let them assimilate you.
Oh, it's perfect. Like and then for the rest of the level, it kind of like, you know, the stakes are kind of slightly down, but you're like getting to the turtle then. But,
and on top of that as well, I feel like because the holograms throughout the whole city are also like shining your image, because you are at this point the most famous musician in the galaxy. There was a level of like, I feel like the city was kind of like egging me on a little bit, that they were kind of over this weird like fashion focused police force. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a moment here where I said, seeing Francis on stage did have me feeling like, that's the character I dressed. That's the music I played.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And then you continue on, and there's the parts where like you said, you strum during the light and you get thrown across to the next buildings. That part was really cool. And then we make our way over to you have this confrontation again with the
mayor or something.
Yeah, I think this is the fashionista, right? Like that's
that's right.
and it's like, well, like, what do you want to get you out of here? It's like, well, I want the turtle. And he goes, I'll give you the turtle as long as I can chase you, for the rest of my days, which I thought was going to come back and never does.
No, I thought it was going to be like a longer thing. Like, oh, I'll let you go and you can get back to the lung, but I'll be chasing you. But no, it was an immediate thing. Like, get on the turtle and now I'm chasing you. So it was like, okay, this is the right now thing.
Well, yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen. I assumed that like he would chase me even after I get back. But yeah, right. And that
was a nice sequence too when you're like beside his big ship thing, and you're on just this turtle that's just kind of like swimming around, like it's floating along, and the other stages come up beside him as well.
It reminded me a lot of Final Fantasy X, actually, because there are a lot of moments where you're in the airship in 10 and you're fighting Sin, which is this gigantic whale in the sky, and like trying to bash it out of the sky. And you got to get closer and further away from it, like depending on whether it's charging up an attack. And you do it a couple of times. And it reminded me of that in a really positive way. It was like, oh, this is like an epic sky battle, except it's music and it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
especially when the lasers get involved too. Like it's the cherry on top.
Mm-hmm. And the turtle was very cute.
And it also does introduce you the idea of playing the music and then running over to a different area to play more of it and then running back. And it sort of felt like what it's like when someone is performing on a stage, right? They will use the whole stage to their to their advantage and run to different parts of the crowd as they're playing. And it kind of felt like that was the performance for this, because while you're fighting this gigantic whale in the background of this battle, the foreground being Francis, Francis never actually turns around and looks at the thing that he's fighting. He's always looking directly at you because it's all a performance. Because it's also a game and that's how it's put together, but also the speakers are behind him, right? Like they are always pointed directly at you because you are always the crowd of this performance, which I quite enjoyed as well.
There were times when I did like interpret, I think it was mainly on the Frost planet, but I was kind of like, it sort of did feel like we're still in the lung a bit, and we were kind of just like the audience watching the performance kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like you're looking through the lens.
Which almost made me wonder why that wasn't like a UI thing, maybe. But then I guess that would take you away from the planet. But it's just something you bring to it yourself, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose interesting the UI in this game is nearly non-existent. It is just text, and it is just like press triangle to interact. There is no other elements of UI in this game at all. There's no health. There's no time or anything, and I think it works to that. I think it does work to its advantage that way, where there's
my light on.
Go for it. Which I quite enjoyed. Kerry, do you have anything else to say about this section?
No, I wrote something towards the end of towards the end of my notes, but it had to do with the fashionista riot, as I called it. Which when I wrote that was like, ooh, that's cool. But I said it was an excellent set piece, as was the warp turtle chase, but the original free play section hit so good. I personally, nothing hit as hard as that one did for me.
Right.
And I had this thought of like, I didn't see why the general platforming sections, or maybe, just the general platforming sections, it would have been nice if they'd had the free play moments in there, perhaps, where I could like noodle around on the notes, whichever notes I wanted while running around. So it wasn't just restricted to those literal one moment on each planet 3 times through the whole game.
Sure.
But that's about it. As I said before, the fashionista riot was the best platforming section. Even if it wasn't the best moment I had in the game.
I'm Do either of you remember whether that in that section whether they used the wall grab at all, like the mantling thing?
Probably a few times because there's a bunch of those.
I think there was the higher doors. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also those bounce mushrooms.
Sort of bounce. And
So I think if you miss one, you'd probably grab a ledge. I don't think there were too many mandatory ones though.
Yeah,
With the double, there weren't really that many ones where you had to like do the double jump just to barely get the ledge. It was a lot of the time like if you jumped well enough, you would usually clear it.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't remember any mandatory mantling. Like it always kind of felt like a save for me. It was like if you just didn't make it, we'll give it to you. But yeah, yeah. So I guess like at this point you head back to the lung for like the final time, and you're on stage there, and everybody's like sort of in love with you. And Lightman is moving out of the captain's quarters, and you have a chat with him, and he basically says like, "Hey, like, can I, like, as a former captain, like, do you mind if I'm your supporting act for the next gig, sort of thing, or the final gig?" And Francis says, "Yes, of course," and says, "Okay, do you mind if I pick the stage?" And he goes, "Yes, of course." But yeah, like I feel like this one is maybe the shortest one, I think, right?
It gets interrupted pretty quickly by the course change.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you either of you noticed, but it was like course change, now heading to Hyperion, whatever. So, and like all of those details, those were details that were on that initial travel lounge in Lightman's building in Calypso.
The dolphin.
Threat level dolphin. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, and so like you sort of head with Zom and Violetta. Yeah, like you head, and like you find out that Lightman is taking you to the planet where the Glamagon is, presumably because he's feeling quite like self-conscious, and is like, well, if you can like I could beat this thing, but maybe you can't, and also a level of like maybe I can do it again and relive my glory days, and one final score, like all this stuff, things an aged person who has best years behind them would do in a moment of crisis. So yeah, we head into the Hyperion whale zone.
That's right.
But like WAIL zone, like wailing and yelling zone. This planet looks like they all look pretty sick, but this one looks fucking sick. Like the blues and the pinks and the purples and all of that stuff was just so fucking cool.
It's definitely that they've saved the best one for last.
Yeah,
I think like it's
that
it's kind of like what you've been building to with the Glamagon. It's like, oh, this is the Glamagon. Like,
but also it was so funny too because like you get there and then you just land in like a fashion jungle party, not fashion, like just like a village jungle party. And it's like, oh right, this is still a planet. There's a whole planet here of people doing their own thing. And then
you meet that frog thing.
the frog thing that with all of the eyes? Yeah. There's also the like no party zone, and it's like don't you dare play something, and it's like it's just such a strange singular area.
Yeah, that was the same section with that, like, I want to call it like a tentacle octopus thing where it just like comes out the ground, and then it's just like, hey, how are you? Like you have a good chat, and he's like, you want to ride me, don't you?
Yeah, Floyd.
Yeah. And then the guy just is like, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
that was so funny. But there were also those like snake worms that like came out of the water and like went at right angles through the sky and then like landed back in. I wrote screensaver firework fish.
Oh yeah, they look like the pipes from like the Windows 95. Yes. Oh my god.
But yeah, this one went quick.
Yeah. This was this is very brisk section of the game because you what is it? You land at that party, then you talk to the frog, and then you do a little bit more platforming, and then you make it into where those fish are, and then that's when you said before, Alex, there's that moment where you take pictures with fans where you can
Yep.
like do silly poses and points. And then
All
you
3 different poses.
Yeah.
Oh, that radio interview.
the radio interview as well, which was quite funny. That one, I'm glad that section didn't go any longer than it did
Yeah.
because I was like, I kind of want to like get to the bit, right? Because it's so like seeing the vision of Lightman in the background performing for the Tastemaker.
Yeah.
And he's like, 20 skyscrapers tall and
Lasers everywhere.
lasers everywhere and holographic, and it looks so fucking cool. Listening to Lightman's music when you hear it on its own, it is so Hendrix.
Yeah,
It
it
is-
is. Just
it
that
is-
different style.
It is so fucking Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah. So can I ask, with this interview, I feel like is a good time.
Yeah.
What was everyone's character introduction that you heard so many times on this final planet?
My guy was the ethereal approach, general of the heavy metal light brigade, and I was from Gareth or something. I forgot. Like I don't like it was the one planet starting with G. It was I chose the planet because it said that every city was like 200 miles wide and rotated on an axis no thinner than a bullseye.
That's right. Yeah. That's a fun one.
Or like sorry, no wider than a bullseye. Which I was like, okay.
They were all kind of like that,
Yeah.
And then there was that one that was on an asteroid that was just like off the
M1.
turn off the 16A. How about you, Alex? What was your introduction?
Mine was I am the exquisite Alex. Actually,
The
no.
The ethereal Alex.
Yeah.
I'm the ethereal Alex. I should be looking at that with glasses. I'm the ethereal Alex of the cosmic extraordinary, and I am leader of the infinitely loud galactic symphony.
The infinitely loud galactic symphony, right?
Right.
I don't know. I was going for more music. I was like,
Yeah.
I wanted to do a theme.
Gary?
Yeah, mine was I am the ethereal meal. I am from Warbleword, where we invent and ratify a new language every 3 hours. Soloist of the first intergalactic transmission.
Nice. I'm glad that those were all different and we didn't all pick the same.
Me too. I was expecting more crossover with those than the name, to be honest.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Yeah, so like that's kind of it. Like you for this section, you then make your way over and Zom's like, hey, go wake the beast, and so you go over to this no party area where you can just like there's one guy there that's like, hey, don't play music because this is the new music zone,
and everyone else is just ready to go as soon as you start playing.
And so like did either of you hesitate? Or did you just run in and play?
Pretty much, yeah. Sprinted in. Just
Yeah.
I
Gary?
think when they tell you not to do something, it's like, okay, I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did hesitate. I got to like the middle of the area and then I just started playing and the whole room lit up and everyone started dancing. It was good.
Yeah.
And there was like not any punishment. No one cared.
No, not at all. Yeah, so you then awaken Floyd.
Yep.
Which is great, by the way. I love this creature. And yeah, then it's like, you want to ride on my head, don't you? And you're like, yes, please. And so you do. And you find out the Tastemaker is Lena Headey. The gigantic
Head from before.
Yeah, the head from before. The Little Big Planet head from before.
But also you catch up to Lightman.
Yeah. At the same time, you catch up with Lightman, and he's in this cool 60s like set from an Ed Sullivan show stage that's on jets, and he's got his head with like on a hologram above it. And you sort of start to talk about, like, it is then revealed that Lightman knew the Bob Dylan character, and it was using you to bring the Bob Dylan character back, and like a lot, like the plot kind of happens here, right?
Yeah.
Like the reason for everything sort of is happening all here, And then you start to have this moment of crisis of like, well, maybe I am a funk person because I am, at the end of the day, I'm just another Vendetti. You then work yourself.
That turn, that twist, quote unquote, was I didn't expect it when it came, and I was like, oh man, that is gonna hurt, because like it was cool with this planet seeing Francis own what he was trying to be, what he thought he might want to be for the planet because he had to be.
Yeah.
Like that was just cool. Like this whole planet was just like owning it. And so it was like I felt that blow a decent amount of like, oh man, he was just brought along because he was Johnson Vendetti's nephew. That sucks.
Yeah, and Lena Headey sort of looks inside of him and sees the little bit of the folk that's still there in him, because it's not 100% all in on this music. And
can I write down one of the words she says?
You can write it down.
It might have been after the down moment.
You can say it into the mic as well as just writing it down if you'd like, Harry.
Great. So I wrote down, when I arrange every facet of you in my mind, I can hear you like a chord. I heard that, and I just put the controller down. I picked up my phone. Like, oh my God, fuck. I don't know, that one struck me.
Yeah. Alex, what did you think about this part?
It was interesting as well, because like, again, with the Vendetti stuff, I was kind of still I was expecting something about the uncle to pop up. Not with any flagging or anything, but it just kind of seemed like going back, like, Lightman, why would he pick this one kid off Cosmo? Like, why?
Yeah.
And then, like, for the whole thing, and then, like, when he sort of got those little subtle things about him being a bit shaky, it kind of then was sort of coming together a bit more. But again, when you find out that he was the opening act for Lightman, it's kind of like, oh. But, like, you can kind of then understand, again, that theme coming back up with your character, where he's caught between his folk, his new stuff, and what everyone else is expecting of him.
Yeah.
And, like, because he thought Lightman was, like, fully on his side with, like, yeah, you're coming with me, you're a talented kid, yada, yada, yada. And then he finds out towards the end that, no, you were brought here because, and it's, just kind of a good thing that you're talented, kind of like. But yeah, it'd be interesting if they brought him in without that. Like what if he was not talented? Like, there's a lot of, like, little cogs there that's sort of interesting to me, but it's very obvious why the player character gets very bogged down in that.
Well, it's interesting too. That is partially the resolution as well, because you play the Glamogon stage, and we can talk about that in a sec. But the conclusion of that is the Glamogon's like, you've done it. You have entertained me. Not because of your music, though, but because of your light show.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's not about him. It's like, yeah, you were all right, but you were the vehicle for the thing that really blew my socks off tonight. And so it's like, it's not about the ethereal. Like, it's about Violetta for some reason. I still never really figured out why. It's like, she's the thing that runs the place. I'm like, why? So yeah, like that kind of is partially in the ending somewhat.
Which is also weird, because he gets given the car, not Violetta. Like, he gives it to Violetta after, but, like, he still wins, which was like, there was a little.
Well, he's the one that's there, right?
Yeah, but, like,
it's like Doug Bowser picks up the Game Award because he's the one that's there.
Yeah, but there's a reason Doug Bowser picked up the Game Award, and it's because he decided he wanted to be the one to pick up the Game Award.
Well, I guess this is because Violet had decided she didn't want to be there. Right?
I suppose, right? And that's Well, we'll get there in a sec. But yeah, the tastemaker being tastemaker is, like, I wasn't like, oh my God, it's the god from the beginning. I was like, oh, okay. It sort of felt like we've revealed the identity. It's this person from the early part of the game. Like, okay, I see. And then like you have that moment where there's like the spotlight, and it then kicks into the whole stage of with the Glamagorgon behind it, which is huge, is like this gigantic tick.
I think that's a really accurate description, actually.
I don't know how to describe it. It's
I
just
think that was my favorite stage of the game, just because of like how it starts off with the middle section,
Yeah.
and then you go up to the other section, and then it full on like builds out the ground, and then the other one builds out the ground as well.
yes,
Just like the size and like of the crowd, but like even just the giant Glamagorgon just like fucking
Yeah.
hovering there, just like it's the motif again on its head. Like
yeah.
Sorry, Alex, I think you're just talking to the side of your mic a bit. It's a little quiet.
sorry.
It's all good.
The
But yeah, I agree. Like I wrote down that like the final performance for the Glamagon was like it was the best way to do all of the platforming things at once.
Yeah.
Like the bounce pads, the sliding down hills, the stomping on the ground to start the thing, the
Yeah.
wailing around as you walk on stage. It felt like those mechanics were maybe built for this moment.
Yeah, I didn't think this stage was a really good, like, let's put it all together. Like, you know how to do everything here. And there's no more teaching. Like, it's just like execute on the idea.
With like a new song too, which was good, like a final song.
Yeah. And like the crowd as well, the thousands of heads bobbing up and down. The only time in the game that characters are not looking directly at the crowd, directly at the camera, is when there is a crowd. So like I quite enjoyed that as well. Even on the lung, a lot of the crowd is still looking at the camera, which is funny. But like at this point, it was like, okay, like all eyes are on this guy. And like the stage as well changes so many times. Like, you know, speakers appear on the side in giant towers, and like that, like lights and colors get like shone throughout the whole thing. It doesn't ever stay one color, which I really quite liked as well. And then you win, and you get given a DeLorean, which I think is cool. Because
and like the contest happening, and then it's like, and for winning, you get a ride from Anti-Ride. Because if you've got a ride, it's got to be Anti-Ride or whatever it was. It was like, wait, this is sponsored? What the fuck?
It really played into that whole I think with musicians and like music videos thing where like they're sponsored by just random shit.
yeah.
Like Sony or like, you know, just like the car labels and shit.
Yeah.
Norman
Like,
Reedus
I love
picking up
that.
a monster drink.
Yeah, and then like Violetta and Francis are driving through space.
Yep.
Nowhere in particular. She just wants to drive. She just wants to move. She wants to be on the move. And while she's driving, she bumps into Lightman, who is just floating above
Just in
them
space.
Just floating.
at the same speed. Just hangs out. I thought it was quite funny that she was sort of like free of this thing, and there's that moment where he says like when you come back, can you pick me up? And she's like, all right,
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, it's funny too, because like he was never that bad. Like she was a little fed up with him, but it was never that like
He's not a villain.
toxic or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, then you head back. You head back to the town of Calypso. At this point, we know that we've missed the show. The show had happened at 7:00, and I think you get there at 8 or something, and you then head to the after party.
Kind of strange that people go to the after party when the main event didn't turn up, but whatever.
Also, like, where was the main show was going to be in town, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was going to be at the Rude bar owner's place.
Yeah, I was kind of impressed how many like actual people went to the after party. Like, but I guess like if no one performed, of course you're gonna go. But like, it seemed like very like, oh my god, the old like the little grandma made it all the way
Yeah.
up there too. Like,
Yeah.
like, you know, is that keen? But,
There's also that moment before you get there where there's the figure in the distance down the creek.
that was, what did you guys make of that?
I was confused. I was like, who the fuck's that? But I was like, I guess it's the uncle.
It's
And
Johnson.
like, I guess-
He's sitting on a stool, leaning over with a guitar in his hand. It's got his big coiffed hair.
Yeah. Great hair.
Yeah, great hair. Oh, yeah, Bob Dylan had good hair. This is what made me think that.
I don't think I've ever seen Bob Dylan.
Really? I mean, you have, because you've played this game.
Oh, look at that hair.
Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting because they don't play with the death of Johnson very much.
No.
It's never a thing. Like his death is never a thing that has ever weighed on Francis. Even his legacy is not particularly. Even his legacy is not really particularly a thing that weighs on him. It's just other people's expectations of how he is going to be, which is interesting that he does show up at the end. Maybe as a sign of like I'm watching you finally be who you are or something.
It's like the hat tilt.
Yeah. But yeah, then you sort of you get on stage and you like introduce yourself.
He has that discussion with Remy, the owner, right? And he's giving him all of the lines that he believes because we were there for them.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, "What the fuck are you talking about? You piece of you weren't here. Why are you here now? Get on stage."
Which he has no right to be as rude as he was in the first cutscene. In this cutscene, you know what? He didn't show up to the gig at all and rocks up to the after party wearing this. So like I can understand a level of like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. But the music as Francis walks on, and it's like it has never been like that throughout the game, really. But it was great.
Especially when you do see like those cuts to the crowd and like the grandma's teary.
Yeah.
And, they're all like, just like,
who's
oh
this?
My God. Like,
and he's still got the holographic guitar and it's like bright in his hands. And the moment he strums all of the strings, the lasers shone out.
Yeah,
above the crowd as
they were all symmetrical when the end turned up. It was like a picture. It wasn't like how you get like, oh, it was like uneven over here and there's gaps. So it was a symmetrical fan of lasers. I was like, whoa.
All from Violetta stealing those valves at the start.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. She was stealing valves. I forgot about that.
I kept thinking it was fuses, but then just like before I was like, no.
Yeah, because the tubes in the amp, and then that's it. And then the credits roll.
And the flying car.
Yeah, that's right.
And before the credits.
Finally, the flying car rocks up on screen, which is like did it happen or not? Yeah. So, how do we all feel at this point? How do we feel about the ending of this story?
I think it was a good ending. I think it could have been bad. I think it could have easily just like petered out. I think it was a good ending.
Yeah.
It was a strong ending, yeah. Like I think the beats that it hits towards the end are very satisfying. And it kind of feels very like you've gone through all this stuff to get here and it's worth it. And like especially like we said before, like seeing the ghost in the figure, spectral, whatever you want to call it, in the background's quite a like, it's an interesting nod, I think, but it's also something that like Francis doesn't comment on. Like there's no like dialogue there. It's just kind of like something for the player.
Yeah, and it has the very like the message in this game is very overt, but it is good that it really it capitalizes on the player really receiving the message. You know, like when like a lot of the time when a game has like some message like that, sometimes they will tell the player the message. So like they will tell the person playing the game the message better than they will tell the main character. And there is a level of disconnect of like I get it, but my character wouldn't have. Like they believed in something that they didn't get enough, or that they didn't earn this, right? Whereas I feel like this was an earned ending. Like they'd hit all the right beats at all the right moments.
Even although, like it was so clear from the moment on the cliff where you try to play the ballad and then instead you just wail for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Like
it's shit. Like he can't play because he hasn't got his magic. Yeah. Like yeah.
But like, yeah, like it's so clear where the game's going. And it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. There was another thing that I did want to bring up. So I was looking through articles about this game from when the game came out. There's a really good article which like I'm not going to read out the whole thing here, but there's an article here.
This picks up on something that I've got in here too, because I want to bring it up.
Yeah. It's the article is from thegamer.com, written by Stacey Henley, who I believe is now the EIC of the Gamer.
Oh.
I'm not sure if she might have been back then as well. I'm not too sure. The article is titled "The Transical Mystery Tour of the Artful Escape." Subtitle of the subheadline is "Francis Vendetti's journey to accept what he is and what he is not is a deeply trans story."
Yes.
It like the article is quite good. It's not too long. I definitely recommend reading it. It'll be in the show notes. But basically the idea of, you know, societal pressure to be a certain way, to be a certain person, going on a journey of self-discovery, and a lot of the things that Francis was dealing with throughout a lot of the game, this author felt like it was a lot of the same things that she went through as a trans woman. You know, the idea of not letting people from her past down, or, you know, being afraid to show the people from her past that she has changed, or that Francis has changed, right? The idea that the one that really stuck out to me the most was when he goes to visit Space Gordon, and he's like, hey, like, you've got it, kid, let me broadcast you to the stars. And his immediate response is not, I don't want the stars to see me. It's, I don't want my town to see what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Which was very like, oh yeah, like that read is perfectly fucking valid.
Yeah.
Is that similar to what you were going to say, Kerry?
It's precisely what I was going to bring up. There were so many moments where I was like, even from just Calypso, like so many moments where I felt like this could easily, the parallels could be drawn to that of like an allegory for the trans experience. And like, I don't know, that it wasn't overt, but it really wasn't subtle. Like it wasn't the point, but it kind of was. Like it's fascinating. Like it's kind of all subtext, but it's also the whole point of the game. It's
There's literally a line in this article saying, "The Artful Escape straddles the line where I'm not too sure if I'm reading into it too much or have in fact cracked the secret code, but I'm not too sure I ever need to know. My experience of The Artful Escape was very queer, and that was good enough for me." Like, it's like, I am not trans. I am queer and have had similar things where it's like I will dress differently depending on if I'm seeing family or if I, you know, am going out to a club or whatever. Like those things happen to a lot of people for a whole variety of reasons. But yeah, it can. Honestly, I think this, and like I wrote down here in my notes, the very first time you meet Violetta, she is both wearing like blue and pink.
all right.
And like it's not like that doesn't mean like that, like blue and pink and white does not always directly equal trans, but also it's very easy to read those things, right? Yeah, Alex, what did you think?
I had a similar thing like that, but I think early on I was worried with Violetta that they were going to go down that like manic pixie dream girl route with her.
Yeah,
Just
right.
Like, oh, don't do it. Like, no. And then like when she wasn't in that game that much, I was kind of like, okay, like, I'm cool with this. Like, it's, you know, they're not like just using her as like a character trope.
And she's not even a romantic interest at all, right? Like there is no like will they, weren't they? There is just like
Character.
Yeah,
exactly.
which is great.
She's just there. She's doing the light show. She's having a blast. She's taking Lightman for all he's worth.
Yep. And
you know, she's not afraid to bite him. Like,
yeah. And on top of that as well, she did get her own agency when she did want to take credit for her show, but still wasn't ready to be out there yet. She was still waiting for her entrance, and she rocks up wearing a mask because she wanted to be shown off who she was and take credit for the work that she's doing, like on
anonymously.
Well, like just like not even specifically like anonymously, but just on her own terms. She wanted to control that, and she did, which was great.
Yeah. There was so much stuff even at the start, even in that first scene with Violetta, where she's like, "You ever climbed to the top of that tree, or have you ever been to the top?" And Francis says, "Been too scared to try." There's all that stuff about like, "Oh, have you ever thought about becoming someone else entirely?" And then something, I think I wrote something else towards the bottom. Oh yeah, and when you come out of the wardrobe, when you've dressed yourself, and like the character creator in general, like all of the different options, it didn't matter what you wanted to pick. It was just you could pick whatever you wanted to pick, and that was it. That was just it. And that I think was great. And then Frida says, "They will make fun of you at first, mock you. That's because they've never seen anything like you before." It's like, oh man, that's so awesome. They just let the people in this game and you as the way you experience it and express yourself through this game just be who you want to be, and that is how it is. I thought it was great.
It's fascinating, like this game, how easy it is to draw similarities with your own experience, like no matter what that is. Like Jeremy was saying before, like dressing differently, like, you know, similar for me, like when I go to events, sometimes I'll put stuff on my eyes and I'll, you know, go ham there, but like if I'm with family I won't. But like it's this interesting thing, even from an artist point of view, where like there is all this stuff that's come before you. So how do you like, what do you bring into that? Like what is you that is not just you stealing from someone else, and like that sort of thing. So it's like finding identity, I guess. Is something
Yeah.
That's actually all of my notes. I've been through every single thing.
Nice.
I think that's most of mine, but the others are like little bits. I'm happy with where we've gotten through.
Yeah. Is it anything more you want to pick? You want to throw in there, Alex, Kerry?
I actually think I found like my proper, because we're talking about the introduction things,
Mm-hmm.
and mine was really short, and both of yours was just like 2 lines longer. So my full one was on the far side of the universe. Found in a mall in the closet on a boat. I am the exquisite Alex of the cosmic extraordinary. I am the leader of the infinitely loud galactic symphony. So that's the full one.
Nice,
yeah,
nice.
all right.
I had to shout out the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we did it.
Cool.
I'd be really actually sorry, is something.
No, please
go for it.
How would you classify this game? Like what if you were gonna give it like a genre or like a descriptor, like what is it to you?
It's funny. We were playing with some friends yesterday, and I was like, oh no, I gotta finish, have dinner, and play more of this game, the Artful Escape. So we're talking about it a bit, and they're like, oh, well, how would I had to describe it to people, but also not like straight up give it away because I don't want to give up that it's like a whole thing. And I said, oh, it's kind of like a music platformer, but it's not particularly mechanically complex. It's a feast for the eyes and the ears, I think was how I boiled it down. Yeah. Because I again, it's that thing of like, I don't want to build someone up to be like, oh, it's a platformer. And it's like, well, it's not challenging. Like,
and there's one mantle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'd probably also describe it as a just a adventure platformer. Like it's just a, because like the music stuff, it's not rhythm based. So like I don't know if I would even call it a rhythm game. So I think I would have to just call it like a because like they, like Simon Says puzzles, like you said before, like they're kind of adventure game puzzles a lot of the time. They're like just like hit the right button in the right sequence, and so I think I'd probably
Monkey Island.
Yeah. What about you, Alex?
I yeah, it's interesting because it does. I think that's why I put it down in my notes. Is that it does touch on all the things. Like it is an adventure. It is, it is a narrative game. It's not a rhythm game, but it's like a musical, like it's a music inclined kind of game.
Thematically, it is a music game.
It's a music game. It's also like platformer is there, but again, like it's not like super, like it's interesting that it does those few things, but it also doesn't like fully commit to anything past kind of adventure.
Yeah, it's kind of a journey game.
A journey like.
Don't start it. God.
You heard it here first, everyone. We just invented a genre.
The journey like.
A journey like.
Oh dear.
Cool. Well, if there's nothing else, I think that probably brings us to the end of this episode of MiniDisc. Thank you very much for listening. The next episode is just under 2 months away. We'll be talking about Star Wars Jedi Survivor. However, if that episode is too far away for you and you want to hear more of us in your ears, make sure you listen to the latest episode of the MiniMapCast. You can find that in the feed that you're already in. Also, make sure to follow us on all of our socials at MiniMapAU. You can follow us individually too. Kerry, where can they follow you on Twitter?
At KJPalmer_24.
And Alex, where can they follow you on Twitter?
They can follow me at Alex_bestie.
Yeah.
Oh my god, please edit that. Oh.
And if there's anything else that you want to follow us else on, that is usually at MiniMapAU. Thank you very, very much for coming on the show, Alex. It has been an absolute delight having you on.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you for also choosing the game as well. That is it. It was a really great game to play on this podcast. So thanks for making a really good choice. I
am pretty glad it wasn't something that we could just like tear apart for like 3 hours.
Oh, it's happened.
Yeah,
That would be
happened.
brutal, but
we've done that before. Is there anything else that you wanted to shout out, Alex? Or are you happy just with yourself on Twitter or?
Yeah, Twitter, Alex_bestie.
Cool.
Stuff coming soon.
Cool,
Yeah.
exciting.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Can I just jump in before the very end, Jeremy? As this is sort of us restarting this show, what was the very first show we ever did, let us know what you think. Tell us what you think of the graphics. Tell us what you think of the format, the way we did it, how it went. If you have thoughts, let us know, whether that's on our Discord, which you can find the link for on our website. It's minimap.com.au, or whether that's on Twitter, where you can find us, whether that's on the Patreon, or there's an email address somewhere. Just let us know what you think if you have thoughts. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, always. Definitely.
And also, there are plenty of other Game Club episodes that we've done. We've done Pyre and Tacoma and What Remains of Edith Finch. So many other things. So if you want more of this kind of stuff, it's all in the MiniMapCast feed. It's all in there.
Yeah. Like
Slide one thing in quickly.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
I am really appreciative that you guys had me on for the first episode back.
Yeah, of course.
It means a lot.
Yeah. When we hung out at PAX, I said, "Hey, I should have you on the podcast."
It was literally, I remember that, like, because it was like, what was it, the morning of PAX? When were you recording?
It was going to be the morning of Friday, but I couldn't make it work. Yeah.
Because I remember I got your DM, I'm like, ooh, and then I'm like, oh god,
Yeah.
so many things.
Yeah, like that was the thing. That was the response I got from everybody, because I got the last available booth, because I'm not sure what happened, but I guess they just had some. Maybe something happened and like something cancelled fairly late, and they suddenly had a bunch of booths free, because it was quite late towards the show happening that I was reaching out to people.
Was this the live show you were organizing for PAX last year?
Yeah. And so I reached out to, I think, about 7 people, and no one could do it. Everybody was either like, I'm already on a show, I'm at my day job, I'm not at PAX that day, can you do Saturday? People were
Wasn't that also like, it was the hour that Shuhei was doing the keynote?
It was also the hour Shuhei was doing his keynote panel as well. It was very much like, it was the worst possible time out of over the 3 days, and it was so funny because everyone was like, "Is there another time?" I'm like, like there isn't. I don't have this, which was hilarious. But yeah, I'm very glad that you made it on, and we would love to have you back as well.
Very pleased.
Kerry, you skipped ahead in my script, and now I got to go back and find where I was.
I'm sorry.
You can also head to minimap.com for everything else that we do, including the latest article, which we just published, which is, when this goes out, it will be up. I threw together a preview for an event that I went to, which is a preview on the latest game from the developers of Fogs. And the name of the game is Tray Races. It's a preview of Tray Races. It took me so long to remember the name of that game, which is maybe the worst part of it. The game itself is pretty good. Make sure you give us a big old 5-star rating on your podcast platform of choice. And finally, you can also support us on Patreon. If you want to help us keep the lights and mics on, you can do that by heading over to patreon.com/minimapau. And for $5 you will get 24 hours of early access for all episodes of the Minimapcast, as well as some more benefits, all while helping us out greatly.
I still reckon it should be keep the likes on.
keep the
It's
likes
got too much of a ring to it.
Keep the likes on and the mics on.
It's good.
Maybe
We'll integrate it.
Yeah. Thank you very much for listening. We will see you again. Kerry and I will see you very soon. This show will be back in about 2 months with Star Wars Jedi Survivor. See you then. Thanks for listening.